The story starts in the rush hour with people trying to go on about their daily lives. It's a hectic day as people squeeze themselves into the buses trying to reach their destination. Students are pushing each other and everything feels chaotic. The bus finally comes to a halt in front of a college, and a young guy comes out. He looks tired and defeated as he wonders how he managed to put up with all this madness back in his first year. This guy is named Sungwoo, and he is the protagonist of this story. One of his friends, Hanho Lee, hears him complaining and jokingly asks him if he was lying about serving in the special forces, since he can't even endure a hectic day in traffic. Sungwoo hits him back and mocks him for not even doing his military training. The two continue chatting and make their way to class. As they are walking, his friend suddenly stops and points at the sky. Up in the sky, there is a loading screen that has reached 99%. However, the MC fails to notice anything since he has trash eyesight. He starts mocking Hanho and asks him if he is still missing his girlfriend. His friend is certain that he saw something in the sky, however the MC isn't ready to listen. He simply thinks that his friend has been playing a lot of video games, and now he can't differentiate between games and reality. He tells him that he is just imagining things and slaps him back to reality. The MC tells his friend to hurry up since he can't afford to be late for class. Both of them finally part ways and move towards their own classes. The MC can't really focus during his lecture since he feels a bit sleepy. He regrets not having a cup of coffee before attending the lecture. However, this is something more than just fatigue. A huge screen suddenly flashes up in front of his eyes. It asks him which class will offer the best chance of survival in an apocalyptic world. Beneath the question is a statement requesting him to choose his class. The MC is reasonably confused as this bright screen flashes in front of his eyes. He rubs his eyes to make sure that he is not in a dream. The situation is made even more real when the electricity cuts off. All the students start panicking. It is currently daytime, but they still can't see anything in front of them. Moreover, none of their electronics work. All the students start to notice the same bright screen in front of them. They are all equally confused and wonder if this is a hologram or if they are having hallucinations. However, the MC knows that something is not quite right. He can now see a countdown on the screen along with a bunch of cards with different pictures and stars on them. As the cards start floating in front of everyone, the students decide not to touch them since they don't understand anything yet. Sungwoo sees the situation in a different light. He thinks that it is more dangerous not to pick a card since they don't know what is going to happen after 15 seconds. As the timer continues ticking, he stares at the cards in panic. He doesn't know what to pick, but he can't waste any more time. Suddenly he notices a flash and it appears that one of the students has picked a card. A huge sword falls in front of the student out of nowhere. Moreover, the card he chose also disappears. The MC knows that he has to make a decision quickly. He starts to wonder which class will give him the best chance of survival in an apocalyptic world. Every card has a different number of stars on it. In a hurry, Sungwoo picks the card with the highest number of stars that he can find. This is the Necromancer class card. Bro is about to turn into Jinwoo. A few seconds later, the class selection concludes, and all the screens disappear. It seems like the classroom is back to normal. However, the nerdy student still has his sword. All the students stare at his sword in confusion. He tells them that it came down after he chose the warrior class. Hearing this, the MC wonders if he has actually become a necromancer since he can't feel anything different. Out of nowhere, one of the students gets stabbed by a pesky goblin. He screams and calls out to the rest of the class for help. However, everyone continues looking at him in shock as the goblin continuously stabs him to death. After killing the guy, the goblin looks at the rest of the students and they realize that they might be next. Everyone immediately starts running except our boy. To be honest, he didn't run because he was scared of catching the goblin's attention. Seeing the goblin enraged, the students ask the nerdy sword guy to do something since he is the only one with a weapon. However, he starts crying and refuses to fight. Seeing this, the MC realizes that he is officially screwed. As the goblin pounces at him, he starts running away, but he suddenly realizes that he will die if he turns his back towards it, so he turns around and kicks the goblin away. The goblin is smaller in size, so the MC decides to fight back with a chair. As it rushes towards him again, he squashes him with the chair like a nasty bug. After killing the goblin, he gets a notification telling him that he has received 10 gold for defeating a goblin. He looks at the message and wonders if their world has actually turned into a fantasy game. Another notification pops up informing him that he can control the dead under his command. At level 1, he can only control 3 goblins. As he is trying to figure things out, the goblin he just killed comes back to life as an undead warrior. Sungwoo finally realizes that his class allows him to summon the undead. As the undead goblin looks at him with its glowing eyes, 2 more goblins enter the room. The students start to panic again and scream for help. The MC stands in front of the goblins with his undead soldier awaiting his commands. Without thinking much, he orders the goblin to attack the enemy monsters. The skeleton starts moving and uses its blade to slash open the living goblins. However, the monsters start to fight back since it's a 2-on-1 battle. One of them manages to slash the left arm of the undead goblin. The MC realizes that he might have to step in if his goblin loses. The monsters didn't look that difficult to kill since they had a childlike body, however he needed a weapon. He quickly called out to the nerdy kid with a sword and asked him to hand over his weapon. The guy held his weapon tightly and screamed that he wouldn't be giving it away. The Mac told him to fight the monsters if he didn't want him to use his weapons, but the guy was too scared to fight. At this point, he should just toss him to the goblins and steal his sword. To help his undead soldier, the MC grabs a chair and throws it at the monsters. The skeleton soldier uses this opportunity to finish them off with its blade. The MC gains more gold for killing 2 monsters. He stares at the one-armed goblin as it slowly walks towards him with a cute expression. The MC gets a bit weirded out by the skeleton looking him straight in the eyes, so he orders him to look somewhere else. The skeleton lowers its head as if the MC hurt its feelings. Just then, Sungwoo gets another notification reminding him that he can control the undead. He quickly uses his spell to revive the 2 goblins he has just killed. He now has the maximum number of undead soldiers he can summon at his current level. As everyone tries to make sense of their situation, they start hearing cries for help from other departments in their college. The MC realizes that this stuff might not just be attacking their college campus, but the entire country. The outside view looks absolutely devastating. It seems as if the entire city is on fire. Considering their current situation, one of the students opens the door and suggests that they keep moving. Another student tells them to rush to the daysonging lot since he has a car. As they all run towards the stairs, a group of goblins appear from the shadows. The goblin monsters run at the group of students, but before they can attack them, the undead skeletons ambush them. The MC screams at the students to run as his skeletons take care of the goblins. In a panic, the students scatter and run toward different areas of the college. The MC tries to stop them, but then realizes that it is better for them to go alone. He knows that the game followed some sort of rules. He thinks to himself that his best chance of survival is to keep fighting since it allows him to become stronger. He watches as his undead minions continue to fight for him. One of the monsters goes crazy and slashes the head of his undead soldier. With one of his soldiers down, Sungwoo realizes that he might be in trouble. Now the 2 of his skeletons go against the 2 monsters. This time his skeletons manage to kill them and he receives more gold. He also notices that his level has increased. He opens his profile window to check out his stats. Instead of attribute points, he gets a level up card that gives him a random reward. He knows that it is based on luck, but it is one of the most important parts of the game. He finally chooses the random skill card, and it increases his maximum minion controlling capacity by 1. This means that he can control 4 minions at a time now. As he summons another skeleton, he realizes that he is low on mana. He surrounds himself with the skeletons and sits down to think for a bit. He still doesn't know what's going on, so he decides to focus on his survival for now. With his skeletons acting as his shield, he slowly makes his way downstairs. The situation down there doesn't look good, but he knows he can't stay on the campus forever. He orders his skeletons to lead the way and moves out. As the skeletons are going down, they come across Hanho. He gets scared upon seeing the undead goblins and smacks one of them in the head with his dagger. The MC sees him crying and calls him out. His friend asks him what the goblins are, and he tells him that they are kind of like his bodyguards. He then asks him about his class, and he says that he chose the rogue class. Since his friend was dumb, he chose a class with 1 star thinking that it would put him at the same level as a brigadier general. Even the minions were disappointed in Bro. He joins their group and all of them start making their way out of the campus. As they walk, the MC sees a notification telling him that he has acquired the effects of synergy since he is moving into a group. The effect requires the group to equip 5 daggers. It gives bonus gold and a chance to land a fatal hit on the enemy. The MC realizes that the buff applied to parties when certain conditions were met. Moreover, his skeleton army could also benefit from the bonuses. This meant that he could trigger this buff without even needing a party. As they slowly go down, they come across some minions and a giant monster who appears to be their boss. As he comes across the goblins, a notification tells him that the monsters are affected by the scent of death, which decreases their stats by 30%. This effect is only triggered when there are 4 or more skeletons of the same species. With this buff active, Sungwoo sends his skeleton minions to fight. They quickly overpower the goblins and start taking them down. However, the real challenge comes with the boss minion. He raises his hand to activate the Wild Berserker skill. This buffs the enemy minions, and they start turning the tide of the battle. The MC knows that he needs to stay calm in this situation. He knows that he needs to get rid of the buff if he wants his skeletons to have a chance of winning. He orders the one-armed skeleton to ignore the other minions and go after the boss. The goblin jumps at the boss and slashes its arm in half. Suddenly he gets kicked by the boss, but he has done his job. With the buff gone, the skeletons easily take over the enemy goblins. The boss minion doesn't want to die that easily, so it puts up a fight. Eventually, the boss also goes down and the MC receives some bonus gold. He notices that his boss has also dropped some items. One of them is a spear, and the other is a wristband that buffs nearby allied units. After claiming the items, he looks at the one-handed skeleton standing in front of him waiting for praise. Sungwoo smiles and pats it on the head, which makes the skeleton a bit excited. He decides to continue moving with his friend. As they walk, here's some people nearby. The MC orders his skeletons to hide so they don't scare the other people. A lot of students gathered in front of the exit gate. A guy tries to calm everyone down and assures them that he has contacted the student council. It appears that the main exit gate of the college is locked, and they can't get out no matter what. The MC already knows the guy. His name is Jin Seok, and he is a bully who also harasses women. He was part of the student council, so he acted like he was the one in charge. The MC wondered if he was trying to show off by pretending to be the leader. He tells Sungwoo and his friend that they need to help them protect the rest of the students since they have weapons. He asks him about his class and brags about killing a goblin. As the MC is cringing at the student council guy, the nerd with a sword runs in and informs them that he hears the sound of goblins near the stairs. The council guy orders everyone to hide in the cafe while they guard the front. Meanwhile, Sungwoo calls out to his friend and shows him the message on the door. It says that the door won't be opened until they defeat the boss in a set amount of time. The boss will only get stronger if it's not defeated in time. The MC realizes that he can't rely on anyone to save them, so they need to kill the boss if they want to get out. Just then he comes across Jin Seok again, who introduces him to the nerdy guy and orders him to hold the goblins. The MC asks him if he saw the message on the door. The guy tells him that he saw the message and he is waiting for a rescue team to arrive. He thinks that the Korean army could come in and save all of them. The MC knows that he can't just sit around and wait for help to arrive. As he starts moving back towards the stairs, he sees a bunch of goblins running towards him. The nerdy guy almost has a heart attack seeing the goblins. At the same time, the skeleton minions also come out, which causes him to panic even more. The MC signals the skeletons to stop and explains that they are under his control. He calls the student council guy an idiot and sends his skeletons to fight. Due to the synergy buff and the scent of death, the monsters have no chance to fight back. As the students stare out from the glass windows of the cafe, they see Sungwoo's skeleton army fighting the minions. The MC joins his skeletons and starts smacking the goblins using his spear. Jinseok looks at him in shock since he is planning to run away at his first chance. As the goblins try to escape, the MC orders his skeletons to block the stairs. He knows that he has to convince everyone that he can control these skeletons. In order to fight the boss, he needs them to team up with him. His bracelet activates the wild spirit buff, which increases the speed of all of his minions. These small goblins aren't a threat to him right now, but he knows he might have to fight stronger opponents later on. The students start to notice that the MC is the one controlling the skeletons. As his army cleared through the little goblins, everyone started cheering. The students are starting to trust him now. The MC looks through the dead monsters for any items, but he only gets a notification telling him that he has received a roulette ticket. He wonders how they will give him the ticket since he doesn't have any inventory. They all make their way back to the group. The MC smirks when he sees Jinseok and asks him if he is helpful. Everyone stands in silence for a moment, not knowing what to do. The MC tells them that they cannot leave for now since they can't break the door. He explains that they need to kill the boss first, and he is somewhere in this building. Hearing this, everyone starts to step back since none of them want to go against the boss. The MC tells them that the consequences for failing will be too bad, and they might have to face much stronger monsters. Suddenly, one of the students raises his hand and reveals that he has seen the boss monster. It seems like the boss is on the roof. Sungwoo knows that he has to go to the roof, so he asks the students if any of them want to join him. As expected, they are all scared to go with him. Even his friend wants to stay back, but the MC forces him to come along so he can buff his skeletons. As the two of them are talking, a girl named Jisoo interrupts their conversation and tells them that getting more people might be disadvantageous due to their narrow surroundings. She says that the MC already has his skeletons, so there is no point in bringing people who are even weaker than those skeletons. The MC thinks to himself that the girl seems a bit rash since they don't have enough information about the boss yet. He looks back at Jinseok, but he starts trembling and tells him that he needs to stay back and protect the students. The MC knows that he won't be getting any more people to join him, so he decides to head up with his current team. As they move up, they encounter a wave of goblins. The goblins surround them from the top and bottom of the stairs. Without a moment of hesitation, Jisoo launches herself at the goblins and slashes them into pieces. She uses a long sword and appears to be properly trained. Hanho is really impressed by her skills. Meanwhile, our boy is busy taking care of the skeletons on the top. After clearing through the wave, they start moving again. After climbing a few stairs, they come across the injured professor. The MC runs to him and asks him what happened. He explains that after the monsters attacked the campus, he led his students to the roof in order to keep them safe. However, this was a huge mistake. All of the students became victims of a terrifying monster on the roof. He grabs the MC and begs him not to go to the roof since he doesn't want him to die. The MC grabs his spear and stands up. He has a new quest now that tells him to kill the boss and avenge the professor. The quest also states that his choice will affect his destiny. He knows that this is a crucial moment of the game, so he assembles his skeletons and starts moving up. Once on the roof, they all get a message informing them that they have entered the boss room. The situation of the roof is catastrophic. None of the students manage to survive the boss's rampage. All that is left is some minions. Jisoo gets furious looking at this and decides to rush in and kill all the monsters, but Sungwoo stops her and signals her to wait. He knows that they need to stay calm and be rational in this situation if they want to survive. It doesn't take long for the goblins to notice the group. They all grab their weapons and start to surround them. Hanho asks the MC if they should run, but he wants to stand his ground and fight. He raises his hand and activates the Berserker spell. With this buff, his skeletons charge at the tiny monsters and start slashing them. The MC tells the group to treat the undead soldiers as their shield. He stays behind a minion and strikes the goblin when he gets the chance. Jisoo also does the same and starts slashing the monsters. Meanwhile, Hanho still doesn't know what to do, so he stands awkwardly. Feeling useless, he takes out one of his daggers and throws it at the goblins. His dagger hits and instantly kills the target. Bro even surprises himself. He was good at throwing since he used to throw away pencils from other students in his college. He immediately throws another dagger, and it also hits the target. My guy locks in as he realizes that he has found his talent. As the enemy goblins start losing, they get affected by a debuff which decreases their stats. They start running in fear and stop in front of a giant goblin. The group immediately recognizes that this goblin is the boss monster. With the boss appearing, the goblins get a new wave of motivation, so they jump into battle again. As the group tries to fight back, they witness one of the skeletons getting destroyed to pieces by a single strike from the boss. The MC frantically orders all of his minions to retreat. The boss continues to strike his skeletons, killing them one by one. He revives the dead minions, but he is low on mana, so he can't keep doing it for long. Hanho tries to surprise the boss by throwing his daggers, but he blocks it. The boss furiously starts chasing after him, causing him to scream for help. The minions try to help him, but the boss smacks them away. However, one of the skeletons manages to land a hit on the boss. This makes him even more furious, and he kicks the minion away. Out of nowhere, the sword girl shows up and slashes the boss while he is distracted. She lands a good hit, but it is still not enough to finish him off. The MC realizes that she is being strategic, so he decides to make a strategy too. He surrounds the boss with his minions and orders one of them to attack him from the back. As the boss turns around to defend himself, he launches the spear directly at him. It hits him in the face and he screams out in pain. The MC is almost out of mana now and he only has 3 skeletons standing. The boss recognizes this and laughs, thinking he has won. He immediately strikes using his sword, which makes the MC lose his guard. As the boss starts running at him, he knows he has to think of something, otherwise they will all die. Fortunately, he notices a sword lying around. The boss shakes everything while rushing towards the MC. Sungwoo sighs as he clenches his sword. He then commands both of his minions to rush the boss monster. The boss immediately smacks one of the minions to pieces. The other minions jump in the air and grab the sword passed to them by the MC. However, it fails to land the hit since the boss is too quick to defend. With the minion now holding a sword, the weapon synergy effect is triggered, increases attack speed, and decreases the weight of the weapon. Moreover, the minion actives the one-armed warrior effect, which gives it an 88% chance to cause a bleeding effect on its first attack. The MC knows that he can win with these buffs. He grabs a chair and rushes at the boss with his sword. At the same time, Jisoo and the minion also rush at him. He hits him with the chair to create an opening, and they all go in to attack. However, the boss slams the ground, causing an explosion and throwing them back. Suddenly, the boss gets stabbed by a dagger thrown by Hanho. The MC knows this is his chance. He orders his one-handed skeleton to sacrifice himself so they can land a hit on the boss. The minion played an active role in the entire fight, but now it was time for it to die. In a shocking turn of events, the minion manages to hit the boss with its blade and triggers the bleeding effect. The boss finally goes down and the MC increases his level. He also notices that the skeleton has absorbed all the mana from the boss and is now leveled up. It was at level 2 and had the attributes of a commander. His friends tell him that they have also leveled up after defeating the boss. They all begin talking about their level cards. The MC chooses a random skill card. It allows him to create weapons from bones using mana. At his current level, he can only create 4 weapons, and the quality of those weapons depends on the bone. With the boss dead, his exclusive quest also concludes, and he receives another skill that increases the total number of minions he can spawn. He still doesn't understand the destiny part of the quest. While he is thinking, he notices a hood falling from the sky. His friend grabs the hood and tells him that it will increase his chance of hiding from the monsters by 50%. Jisoo received a fire whetstone. By sharpening her blade with the stone, her blade had a chance to catch fire during an attack. The MC suggests that they test their items and skills later since they need to keep moving. Back at the cafe, the students are starting to get worried. Even the nerd kid begins to wonder if they should have gone to fight the boss with Sungwoo. Hearing this, Jinsuk starts shouting at the students, telling them that they can just leave if they want. He says that if anyone wants to complain, they can go to the roof and die like the MC. The students start calling him out on his BS, since the only one protecting them is Sungwoo. Hearing this, he loses his cool and starts to verbally abuse them. He also tells them that the MC has died, and they have no one to protect them. Just then, a bunch of skeletons show up and scare the crap out of him. The MC returns and asks him if he wants him to die. He opens the exit door in front of him and gets ready to leave the campus. The group, along with the skeletons, glances back at Jinsuk. The MC asks if he has something to say. He feels slightly embarrassed and makes a face but doesn't respond. Behind him, other students start to whisper that he's only pretending to be a strong leader when in reality, he's still a loser. Ignoring all this, the MC, Hanho, and Jisoo exit the building with their skeleton minions. After inspecting the surroundings and finding it clear, Sungwoo notices a passageway and calls everyone to follow. As they walk further, they find several corpses with smashed heads and a variety of weapons scattered around. After examining the bodies, the MC concludes they were killed by goblins and wonders if any are still lurking on campus. Hanho suddenly gets excited as he notices a bunch of people in the distance. The MC and the rest approach the group. They all have weapons on them, and it looks like they have successfully fought the monsters and survived. Jinsuk pushes his way forward, grinning as he greets a guy named Daeshong. The guy also recognizes him and is a bit surprised that he has survived. As the two talk, Jisoo scowls since she already knows the guy. As Jinsuk whispers something to him, Jisoo and Hanho mutter that they are clearly talking about Sungwoo. The MC doesn't really care and he just stands there with a smile. Daesung introduces himself to the group as the president of the student council and comments on how much everyone has suffered. He tells them that they need to unite if they want to survive. He then points at the skeletons and asks about them. The MC casually explains that the skeletons are part of his class card abilities. With a hint of contempt, the council president asks the MC why he chose creatures that kill people. Sungwoo realizes that he is trying to make him seem dangerous. Daeyoung mentions that if he wants to join their group, he'll have to get rid of all the skeletons. Slightly irritated, the MC asks what would happen if he refused. The student council president dramatically raises his hand and asks the MC if he really wants to let the creepy and strange skeletons join their group. Hanho initially gets mad about the creepy part, but after glancing at the skeletons, he agrees with the council president, though he still finds them cute. The MC mentions that the skeletons are part of his class, and if he destroys them, he'll lose his weapons. He insists that survival in this new world requires protection, and the skeletons provide that. Daesung smirks and tells him that he shouldn't be worried since they will be protecting him. He asks him for the final time if he wants to join their group. Hearing this, Jisoo gets annoyed and steps forward while holding her sword out. She tells him that they don't even want to join their group, and points out that being on the student council doesn't make him special. Daeseong looks at her and asks if she's from the Department of Social and Physical Education. With a smirk, she responds that it doesn't matter anymore, as the university is destroyed. He suggests that they calm down and think about his offer again. This makes her even angrier. She reminds him how he embezzled student fees by forging checks during a festival, and reveals that she was the one who reported them on the university's website. Hearing this, he finally asks them to go their separate way. As the group begins to leave, he shouts at them, and says that they'll regret not staying together for the synergy effect. Imagine saying this to a guy who can spawn an army of skeletons. After getting away from the student council members, The MC asks Jisoo if she has a personal grudge against Daeseong. She tells him that he is just a bully who comes to school to hit on girls and harass women. Hanho grumbles as he hears that the student council president is a scoundrel. The girl suggests that they focus on getting out of the campus for now. Moreover, they should avoid places filled with people because monsters may be hunting for big groups. Sungwoo thinks for a second and suggests that they take the footpath by the hill since it leads to the main gate, but avoids most people. The team climbs a long wooden staircase with the skeletons scanning the area. It feels a bit too quiet. Suddenly, Sungwoo raises his hand, signaling everyone to freeze. At the end of the stairs, they spot a huge orc standing over several fresh corpses. This orc monster looks even bigger than the goblin boss. The MC realizes that this is the next wave of monsters. Without any warning, the monster swings its axe into the ground and charges at them. The MC is used to fighting monsters by now, so he smiles and thinks of it as an opportunity to make new skeletons. The orc goes for the skeletons and smashes them to pieces without warning. After destroying the skeletons, it turns its attention to Jisoo, who awkwardly thrusts her sword forward. The orc's axe crashes into her blade, nearly overwhelming her. As it raises its axe for another strike, one of Sungwoo's skeletons sacrifices itself, shattering to save Jisoo. The MC knows that he can't let the orc get closer, so he commands one of his skeletons to stop it. The one-armed skeleton steps in front of the orc. As the orc tries to hit it, it dodges the attack and lands a blow on his shoulder. The MC calls out to Jisoo and tells her to retreat to stable ground since they can't fight the orc on the stairs. She seems frustrated by how effortlessly the orc broke through her defense. After moving up, the MC tells the group that they can't really get close to the orc. The orc recovers from the hit and starts moving up the stairs. Meanwhile, the group heads for the trees to restrict his movements. The MC tells Jisoo that he will use the skeletons as sacrifices for his plan. Necessary. He has plenty of corpses nearby, so he only needs to look after his mana. The orc begins pushing through the trees trying to catch them. After surrounding the orc, Sungwoo orders his skeletons to strike. At the same time, Hanho hurls a dagger toward the monster. All the skeletons also join in and throw their weapons at the orc. Two of them rush the orc from his blind spots, but the orc manages to hit them both. Surprisingly, the skeletons manage to grab both of his arms and hold them tight. At the same time, the MC and Jisoo rush towards him with their swords. The orc swings at Jisoo, but she evades the attack, slipping beneath his arm and striking his knee with her blade. The orc falls to one knee, just as the MC slices through his right arm. Finally, the one-armed skeleton launches itself into the air and delivers the final blow. The MC sees a window that informs him that he has earned 110 gold for slaying the orc patrol leader. Surprised, he realizes they just took down the orc's boss. Jisoo tells him that the orc wasn't as tough as the previous boss they'd faced. He walks towards the corpse and tries to summon it, but the system informs him that his level isn't high enough to raise medium-tier monsters. He summons some normal skeletons and asks Jisoo what card she picked. She recalls choosing the 3-star Tiger Hunter card because she liked its color. Since his mana is recovered, the MC decides to try his new skills. He uses his ability to craft weapons from bones, producing a sword, blunt weapon, spear, and arrow of the lowest grade. Each weapon can be traded for gold. As he holds the axe, he realizes that the weapons are much lighter than he thought. He throws the axe to one of his skeletons and gives each of them a new weapon. This activates a few more weapon synergy buffs for the skeletons. He lends one of his swords to Hanho and instructs him to give it back to the skeleton later. The group starts making their way down the stairs. On their way, Hanho spots something unusual. In front of them is a sealed purple entrance with a message that they must defeat the boss in 8 minutes or face a double power boost to all monsters. The mech is frustrated as he realizes that this is the second time they've encountered such a situation. At the same time, an alert appears informing them that orc squads are beginning a hunt, drawn to the scent of hunters and large groups. Jisoo realizes that the size of the group determines the number of enemies, so staying with a large group might not be the best idea in this scenario. Meanwhile, an orc shows up to hunt the student council team. Jisoo and Hanho can hear their screams from outside the building. He feels relieved that they didn't join them. The three of them realize that being in a large group isn't always beneficial. Another notification pops up which indicates the arrival of the first orc wave. The group has to face 5 orcs in total. Hanho starts to panic as he sees them approaching and asks the MC for his plan. After thinking for a second, he smirks and tells him that he has an idea. He plans to set a trap using the cars and skeletons around them. As the orcs start moving down the road, one of them spots Hanho standing on a car, taunting them by calling them pigs. Furious, the orcs charge at him. Just before they get too close, a car door swings open and throws them off balance. That's when the MC and Jisoo spring into action. She pulls out her sword, and he uses his skeleton army, who were hiding, to attack. The skeletons hit the orcs from all sides, not giving them any time to react. After killing the orcs, a system notification pops up, announcing their victory. Sungwoo earns 100 gold for defeating the first wave and levels up to 4. He notices that he can now command a total of 7 minions, even though his mana capacity is still low. Meanwhile, Hanho is excited about his new high-speed slash skill. The MC turns to Jisoo and asks her what she got. She explains that she picked strength, raising her power by 2 points and giving her a warm, fiery sensation. The MC tells Hanho to give back his sword and summons 2 more skeletons, getting ready for whatever comes next. He hands the sword over to a skeleton that reaches out for it. As they make their way out of the area, they realize that the entire city is in chaos. While walking, Sungwoo suddenly raises his fist and signals everyone to stop. In front of them, a bunch of orcs are attacking a bus, trying to kill everyone inside. The 3 of them peek out from behind a tree and spot 7 orcs in total. One of the guys inside the bus tries to hit the orcs with a spear, but it's not enough. The MC knows that they might all die at this rate. Jisoo watches as 2 orcs swing their axes for another strike and says that they should help them. She suggests that they attack the orcs from one side of the bus, while the spear guy attacks them from the other side. However, the MC is doubtful if the spear guy will be brave enough to go against the orcs. He tells her that relying on strangers might not be wise in their situation. Just then, he points at a truck and says that they will show the orcs the convenience of civilization. Inside the bus, a blonde guy with a sword and shield shouts at another man holding a spear, criticizing him for not hitting the orcs. Kyung-soo Lee screams at him to fight the orcs himself with his own shield and sword. The passengers are trembling and crying since they all think they are going to die. To their surprise, the orcs stop hitting the bus and turn to see a car speeding towards them. The vehicle plows through, tossing 2 orcs into the air. Seeing this, the guys inside the bus are left speechless, unable to comprehend what's happening. The skeletons jump off the trucks and start attacking the orcs. One of the guys inside the bus is even more scared of these skeletons than he was with the orcs. After everything calms down, the guys inside the bus wonder if the skeletons are gone. Suddenly, a skeleton appears at the window. The man drops his spear in terror and falls to the floor, screaming for the skeleton to disappear. Hanho knocks on the bus door, urging the frightened man to open it. The man sees them but is too terrified of the skeleton to comply, despite their assurances that they're human. After killing all the orcs, they leave the area. The scene changes to Hanho striking a vending machine with his hammer. Sungwoo turns to him and asks what he's up to. He smiles and raises his hand, winking as he admits he has no cash but wants a soda, so he's trying to break the machine. The recently rescued blonde guy approaches the vending machine, attempting to buy a Coke for Hanho, only to find it's broken. The MC scratches his head and asks the group if they should continue their discussion. He points to a machine and asks if it spits out items. Kungu nods, explaining that they tried it, but they had little gold so they could only use it once. He then glances at an old TV with a sticker reading, "If you need this, go ahead and take it," suggesting that following the instructions could yield an item. Suddenly the TV screen lights up, welcoming everyone to the E-Class store. Sungwoo presses the screen to browse the offerings. The store offers a chance to try their luck, with 3 reward tiers: bronze, silver, and gold. E-Class stores sell items up to the gold rank. As he browses the shop, Hanho and Jisoo ask him if the shop would actually work. He tells them that they have to try it if they want to know. Hanho has about 360 gold while Jisoo has 584. Our boy, on the other hand, has 1,552 gold, which means that he can try the silver roulette as well. However, he also has the unlimited rank roulette ticket, which allows him to choose an item of any rank. Hanho watches him in shock as he chooses the gold roulette option. His luck is great since he gets first place in the spin. For this, he receives a blue ball called the Tear of the Sea Spirit. It is a legendary class item that increases his mana by 300 and mana recovery by 200%. This was exactly the item he needed since he was facing mana problems. After the gold roulette, he decides to spend his gold on the silver roulette. This time he gets second place and receives a shield. Jisoo also gets second place and gets a skill called Leader of the Expedition Force. However, my man Hanho ends up with third place and receives some potions. He feels disappointed, but Sungwoo tells him that his potions might be useful later on. Jisoo informs them that the situation at the sports field is still ongoing, so they should probably help them. Hanho looks at the MC and asks him if they are going to use the same plan again. The MC smiles as he stares at the truck and reveals that he has something bigger in mind this time. Away from them, the student council group cries for help as it is being attacked by the orcs. Daesung tells everyone to group up and prepare to escape as he holds them off using his sword. One of the guys informs him of people who are trapped in the stands. He tells the man to ignore them since they don't have time to be worrying about others. He then orders Jin-seok and Hyungmin to lead the way since the two of them have shields. The group suddenly notices a bus coming at the orcs from behind. The bus destroys them mercilessly as the man sitting inside laughs like a lunatic. After clearing through the orcs, Hanho leans out of the bus and tells everyone to get inside. The players outside realize that they should have followed them from the start instead of staying behind. Jisoo also jumps out of the bus and comes face to face with an orc. She wants her revenge for the last time. As the orc tries hitting her, she blocks it using her sword. This time, her sword doesn't get pushed back. She kills the orc with her burning sword, and excitedly looks back only to see Sungwoo and his skeletons killing all the other orcs. She notices his incredible strategy of attacking the orcs while keeping his distance. This makes her feel a bit stupid since she only invested points into her physical strength to overpower orcs. As he continues tearing through the orcs, she wonders what he did before all of this. After killing the orcs, he stares at Daesung and asks him what he is doing here since he didn't want to be near his skeletons before. Daesung nervously laughs and asks him if he is going to hold a grudge against him in their current situation. The MC looks at him furiously and tells him that he saw him abandoning people and running away. He explains that he was just retreating and trying to reorganize his team. However, everyone on the bus knows that he is lying. As they are having this conversation, they see a notification about the orc chief being enraged. The MC immediately gets on the bus and tells Daesung that he will only be allowed to get in if he follows his orders. He orders him to hand over his armor first. He complains and asks him how he is supposed to protect his body without his armor. Sungwoo smiles and tells him that he has nothing to worry about since he will be under his protection. After they leave, he gets a system notification telling him that his level has increased to 5, allowing him to control medium-sized monsters. Another system alert informs him that the maximum number of monsters under his control has increased. He feels glad that he now commands 9 monsters. Suddenly, he notices movement behind him and turns to see one of the skeletons wearing all the armor he took from Daesung. He wonders if it's too heavy for him to move. Remembering their past battles, he realizes this skeleton is more reliable than the others. He sighs and tells the skeleton to undress. The skeleton looks at him in despair while he puts on a chainmail over his white t-shirt. Hanho walks in and points at the crowd behind them. He tells him that they might need another bus if they want to keep rescuing more people. The MC tells him that they won't focus on rescuing others anymore. He walks toward the crowd with Jisoo and Hanho by his side, gripping the handrail as the bus sways. He tells the people they need to fight the orcs. A system window appears, declaring that the orc boss has initiated a global destruction operation, meaning the monsters will hunt the survivors until no one remains. Sungwoo looks at the crowd with hopeful eyes, reminding them that according to the game's rules, they cannot evade the orcs forever. They must defeat the boss to escape. A guy in a tracksuit with bandaged fingers raises his hand and tells them that he saw a lot of orcs in the gym. He estimates that there were a total of 100 orcs. This revelation horrifies the crowd, as the system alerts them to a penalty for imperfect teamwork. 3 new system alerts appear. The first states that at least 10 players have a level below 5, resulting in a reduction of movement speed and attack speed. The second notification reports that at least 10 players haven't killed a single monster, which decreases their attack power and gold accumulation. The third message indicates that due to the reluctance of the majority, the chance of a state of confusion has increased. Sungwoo sighs heavily, realizing that while they could defeat most of the orc army in battle, things have become clear to him. The crowd looks at him in surprise when he declares that he will fight the orcs himself. He believes that having a weapon is useless if one doesn't know how to wield it. Jisoo and Hanho try to stop him, but he tells them the same thing. The people in the crowd stare at him, puzzled, thinking that he might have gone mad. The members of the student council smirk as they discuss how this might be a great opportunity to eliminate him. Jin-seok looks out the window, calling him a fool and predicting that he will soon die. Jisoo thinks that it isn't a good idea, so she tries to convince him not to go alone. He reminded her that when they were on the first floor, she said there was no point in sticking together. His skeletons alone are much stronger than most of the people on that bus, so it's not really useful to bring anyone along. Hearing this, Jisoo thinks to herself how his strategies are usually foolproof, but this time the stakes are much higher. As Sungwoo walks into the ground with his skeletons, everyone watches him from the university windows. His friends are inside the bus some distance away from him. They are here to rescue him if anything goes wrong. Sungwoo freezes in the middle of the field as dark figures of enemies emerge. The orcs descend onto the field with a roar, approaching him. Without warning, they start charging towards him. The MC analyzes the monsters and tries to pick out the orc chief. He doesn't really see any system messages, so he concludes that this must be a mid-level boss. The red orc raises his axe toward him and growls. He steps up to the stands, instructing his minions to move forward. The shield creaks as he lowers it to the ground. Positioned at the top of the stairs, he decides to hold his ground. As the orcs roar toward the stairs, the skeletons raise their daggers, preparing to attack. The MC immediately activates his wild berserker skill, increasing the strength and attack of the goblins. Instead of fighting at melee range, the skeletons start throwing their daggers towards the orcs. The daggers kill a few of them, but the boss manages to block them. The MC panics, realizing that his throwing attack has been blocked, and commands his skeletons to charge. He knows that this plan is suicidal. As all the skeletons get destroyed by the orc boss, Righty stares at it with flames coming out of his eyes. Sungwoo places his hand on the skeleton's skull and tells it to wait. The orc monsters smirk after they destroy all the skeletons. However, something suddenly smacks one of them from behind. Behind the orc stands an undead orc warrior who is now controlled by Sungwoo. A notification pops up, indicating that the teamwork has activated the first stage of the synergy effect. The MC gains access to the weapon synergy, which requires at least 5 axes. This effect boosts attack power and speed for the first 10 seconds of battle. The orcs struggle to fight back against the undead orcs since they neither bleed nor get tired. Sungwoo stands proudly on top of the stairs with Righty, and together, they watch as the army of undead orcs overwhelms the ordinary orcs below. Some of the students look through the window and stare in disbelief as they see the MC clearing through all the orcs on his own. Behind the frightened orcs, Jisoo, Hanho, and the bus driver also watch this intense battle. Jisoo's eyes widen in surprise as she recalls her last conversation with Sungwoo. She realizes that he has anticipated everything. As the MC glances at the system alert displaying his mana level, he feels a surge of happiness as it rises. He wonders if this is the power of a legendary item. Skulls float above the battlefield as another notification informs Sungwoo that the orcs have been weakened by the overwhelming scent of death, reducing their characteristics by 30%. Frightened, the orcs begin to retreat. However, their leader roars back, triggering a morale boost effect that halves the effects of the debuff. With a cry, the orcs charge back into battle against the MC. On the other side, Sungwoo's undead army is ready to fight the approaching orcs. Righty climbs onto the fence above the MC and rushes to back the rest of the undead army. As it runs towards them, it takes out its sword and starts slashing some orcs. Combined with the undead orcs, the skeleton charges at the enemy on Sungwoo's command. After finishing the orcs, the MC sits down on the steps, letting out a heavy sigh. A system notification appears before him, announcing that he has earned a lottery ticket for defeating 100 monsters. This achievement allows him to rank up to infinite status, making him the 21st player in the story to receive this honor. He realizes there are 20 players ahead of him who have already claimed this ticket. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a bus. Someone is trying to drive the bus away and escape. However, they hit the pink wall and it prevents them from leaving. Sungwoo gets annoyed as he sees the student president group being swarmed by the orcs. They were the ones trying to leave with the bus. They cry for help as the orcs try to kidnap them. Frustrated, he faces palms. He is upset that others disobeyed his orders and complicated the situation. As Sungwoo prepares to rescue the group, the other students are urged to join him as well. Even though he prefers to fight alone, he allows them to join him as long as they don't get in the way of his skeletons. He enters the building with 2 of his undead orcs. He can see the bodies of defeated goblins hanging from the ceiling. The inside of the building looks terrifying. The group halts as a glow emerges from the smoke ahead, revealing a monster with glowing eyes. Sungwoo holds the orb in his hands and questions if he is looking at the boss. He orders everyone to get ready since they are about to face the orc boss. The hostages are battered and bloodied, some even with knocked out teeth. The MC is somewhat relieved that no hostage is killed yet, but he is also confused since he didn't think that the orcs were intelligent enough to take hostages. The members of the student council look at him and beg for help. He glares at them fiercely and tells them that their current situation was the result of their own foolishness, and they also dragged other people into it. He is against someone who can't even understand him, so he decides to go all in and not show any weakness, since it can be dangerous for him. His plan is to confuse the orcs with a sudden attack and save the group. Out of nowhere, one of the orcs swings its axe and brutally separates the head of the student council president from his body. Everyone is shocked to witness this. However, the surprises don't end there. From the roof of the building, the actual orc boss shows up. He unleashes a strange spell that causes everyone to feel weak. The system sends multiple alerts to Jisoo indicating that she has fallen into a state of confusion due to the breath of the abyss, and her mana continues to drain. The orc boss finally makes his entrance. He is a junior-level black magician similar to a shaman. Hanho's hands tremble as he squeezes a bottle, attempting to open it. He drinks the bottle to restore his mana and even offers one to Sungwoo. However, he rejects it and tells him to give it to Jisoo instead. He grins, inhaling the streams of dark mana, finding the dark energy refreshing. Meanwhile, a system alert indicates that the Breath of the Abyss has significantly boosted his mana reserves, now exceeding 4,000. He understands why he feels so confident. The system informs him that due to the accumulation of abyssal breath, the effects of the First Awakening are temporarily activated, significantly enhancing his characteristics and increasing the number of monsters he can summon. As he walks forward, his figure is illuminated solely by the glow of his mana, giving him a terrifying appearance. Imagine using black magic on a necromancer. He continues walking towards the boss with a smile on his face and asks him what he did. The boss is reasonably confused since he didn't expect any of this to happen. Jisoo rushes after Sungwoo and says that they should all attack together, just like on the roof. Sungwoo lets out a creepy smile as his entire body seems to glow with overflowing mana. He declares that from now on, nothing will be the same. The undead soar into the air, and Hanho watches them as all the dead bodies on the roof start coming to life. His eyes stay wide open with shock as he stares at the numerous system notifications about different synergy buffs that they have acquired. Meanwhile, Sungwoo looks like an absolute monster who wants the boss to taste the true power of death. The orc shaman starts smashing all the undead warriors into pieces. However, a system notification appears revealing that there is a guaranteed chance to revive all these undead skeletons. No matter how many skeletons the shaman kills, they keep coming back. As he kills one skeleton, Sungwoo revives it instantly. The orc shaman starts growing tired. He stares at the MC who now looks like an absolute monster. My man accidentally turned into the boss. He asks the shaman if he finally understands who he is facing at the moment. He stares into his soul with his glowing eyes and tells him that it is the true nature of death. The shaman shrieks in fear as he doesn't know how to defeat the MC. He tries to retreat, but the undead army surrounds him from all sides. Sungwoo sees this and tells him that he is foolish to think that he can escape death. The poor shaman screams as all the skeletons leap at him from all directions. He tries to fight back, but the numbers are highly against him. At last, Righty delivers the final blow and puts him out of his misery. Sungwoo gets 1055 gold for killing the junior black magician. After killing the orc chief, Righty absorbs his mana and increases its rank. Sungwoo realizes that his minions have to defeat the boss in order to gain experience. He then opens up the list of his minions. He has a total of 33 skeletons, one of his which is a level 3 veteran. As he looks at the list, Hanho calls him and tells him that there is something coming out of the boss monster's mouth. As the MC takes a look, he realizes that it's an item. The item description says that it grants devil attributes to the user, and once equipped, it will require many sacrifices to remove. He doesn't really understand what the devil attributes mean and assumes that it will likely be the same as his necromancer class. He equips the item which grants him the devil attribute. It allows him to steal the enemy's mana with each attack. Suddenly, all of his skeletons start crumbling back to bones as the effect of the orc shaman's spell wears off. The group goes back to the students who cheer them for defeating the boss. They call the MC their hero, but he doesn't really feel good about any of this since he has no need for other people. He knows that in order to increase his chances of survival, he needs to avoid getting too many people with him. Since the boss has been defeated, the seal finally breaks and the exit doors open. The students wonder if they can finally leave the area. They all start talking to each other, thinking about their next move. Some of them think that they should just continue following Sungwoo since it is their best option for survival. Hanho looks at his phone with a worried expression and tells the MC that it is happening all over the world. He wonders if his parents are all right. Hearing this, the MC thinks about his own parents. Suddenly a bus stops in front of them and Kyungsoo tells everyone to hop on. He says that he was a driver during his military service and he knows where the military base is. He is going to take the bus to the base. Sungwoo smiles and lies to him that he can't go since his house is nearby. Kyungsoo asks the rest of the students to hop on and reveals that they have brought 2 buses to accommodate everyone. Everyone except the MC's groups gets on the buses. The guy says goodbye to him and drives off. After the students leave, Hanho wonders where they will go next. He asks Jisoo where she lives. She tells him that she used to live in the school dorms since her own family lives on an island. She then asks the MC if she can stick with him even though she won't be of much help to him. He assures her that she will be helpful and lets her stay. Hanho asks him the same question, but the MC jokingly tells him that he needs to cut off one of his hands first to become a one-armed warrior like Righty. Out of nowhere, Jisoo pushes them both to the ground to protect them from something. As the 2 fall down, a giant dragon flies over them. The group looks at the terrifying creature not knowing what it is. Meanwhile, the bus comes to a stop and Kyungsoo notices several dragons following them. A guy screams at him to continue driving, but he tells him that it is more dangerous for them to continue moving right now. The dragons only seem to be chasing the buses which are moving. The system notification informs them that the boss Wyvern Alpha Male has appeared. The next moment, the dragon lands on top of the bus and rips it into pieces after flying it into the air. Sungwoo looks at this and realizes that he is nearly not strong enough for this world. However, he can become stronger. With his back turned towards Jisoo, he tells her that instead of avoiding the monsters, they are going to actively hunt them from now on. This leaves her a bit confused, and she asks him what he means. He explains that they can't just rely on adapting to the situation. If they continue doing that, they will only go from being easy food to food that is a bit harder to catch. In order to survive, they need to dominate the monsters. He clenches his fist, and the group starts walking towards a group of orcs. As the orcs and players come face to face, a system notification pops up telling them that the tutorial is complete. If that was the tutorial, I'm not sticking around for the actual game. As the hunt begins, Sungwoo uses his skeleton army to surround a bunch of minions. The goblins try to escape, but he has all the exit points blocked off. The skeletons continue slashing them as they run for their lives. Each kill gives extra gold to the MC. After getting rid of all of them, he gains a level. Hanho gets out from hiding and nervously laughs, saying that he took care of them all by himself. The MC sighs and tells him that they are all just small fry. He doesn't think that killing goblins is going to do them any good. He takes a look at the level cards and chooses to increase his strength. After picking the strength card, his body actually feels a bit different. His skeleton army continues to clear goblins out of sight and he gains more gold. He walks out to see Jisoo standing there with her blade. She smiles at him and tells him that there were 9 goblins in total, and she killed them all by herself. The MC looks at Hanho and asks him to pick up the daggers left behind by the goblins. He stores all the daggers in an icebox. As they prepare to move forward, he tells the group that they are going to ignore goblins from now on. Jisoo asks him if he wants to hunt stronger monsters. He explains that compared to goblins who are only worth 10 gold, a single orc gives about 80 gold. However, he wishes to find a group of monsters that can give them even better rewards. The group continues walking through the empty roads with no one in sight. Suddenly Hanho notices some military trucks in the distance. There are a lot of dead soldiers piled up in front of the trucks. As they get closer, they notice the soldiers carrying shovels instead of actual weapons. The next moment, a soldier shows up from one of the trucks with a shovel and asks them if they are human. He is scared of the skeletons standing behind the group. Sungwoo waves at him with a smile and assures him that they are human and mean no harm. The soldier calls out to his sergeant and informs him of the people outside. The MC walks to meet the sergeant from outside the window. He apologizes for having to meet them like this, but he can't walk out since his leg is injured. Sungwoo realizes that he has been stabbed by a goblin. Sergeant Kim feels a bit disappointed in himself as he tells him that he got stabbed by a minion who was no bigger than a child. Somehow, they manage to beat the monsters. The MC looks at the sergeant in confusion and asks him why they are not carrying any guns. The sergeant explains that their guns just won't fire. It wasn't a mechanical malfunction, but all of their weapons stopped working after the monsters showed up. They had to resort to fighting with shovels and swords. Looking at the sergeant's condition, Hanho faintly tells Sungwoo that he has some healing potions. Kim moves closer to the window as he sees the bottle and asks them if he can have it. Sungwoo looks away and tells him that they can't simply hand out resources that may be critical to their own survival. Hearing this, the sergeant pokes his head out of the truck and tells him that he can offer him some information. He says that he will tell them everything he saw and heard till now. The MC thinks about it and says that he wants to hear it first before deciding if the information is even worth it. Kim reveals to him that there are wolves roaming around that are as large as bulls. They couldn't even take a single wolf down, and their forces were overwhelmed. Moreover, there is also a QR code. He saw 2 of them so far. One of them is in the station, and the other is in the subway transfer center. The sergeant takes out his phone and tells them to scan the codes as it will install an app on their phones. This is the only way they can communicate with other survivors, since all other means of communication are not functioning. Sungwoo hands over the potion to him as he thinks about the community of survivors. The sergeant then asks them where they are going and says that they are going to rejoin their unit. Sungwoo asks them if he will be safe with his unit. Kim tells him that when the monsters first appeared, their superiors took away their weapons and told them to fight the monsters with shovels, but he is sure that they must have changed their tune by now. The MC tells him that they are heading somewhere else. As Kim prepares to leave, he warns him of the creatures in the sky. The sergeant starts sweating as he hears that there are giant dragons flying around the sky. After parting ways, the MC continues moving with his friends and the skeleton army. They come across their first QR code as they reach the station. Before installing the app, Hanho worryingly asks the MC if the code might install a virus on their phone. My man worrying about a virus in the apocalypse. The app has a message board and a newsfeed that allows the players to share information with each other. The admin of the game also uses it to post updates. Sungwoo looks at a post from the admin and wonders who could be behind all of this. He also looks at the message board, which is empty for now. Jisoo tells him that it costs about 1,000 gold to make a post. Suddenly, they see a new post from player 4884, informing other players that their group is making a safe zone in the H apartment complex of Hwaseong City. The post also has 2 comments, one of which is from another player asking how to contact the group. Looking at the address, Hanho tells them that it is near his own place. Sungwoo asks him if they should go there. He also wonders how the person making the post managed to spend 1,000 gold so easily. They barely managed to reach level 6 after going through so much trouble, and the other group was already at level 8. He stares at the post and thinks to himself that something about it seems wrong. However, he still needs to meet some high-level survivors, so he continues walking towards the address mentioned in the post. Suddenly, he hears a beep on his phone. He checks to see a comment deleted on the post. The player asks why the comment was deleted, and the author of the original post tells them that someone was just talking crap, so they deleted their comments. This comes off as a bit strange to the MC as he continues staring at his phone. Meanwhile, we see another buff guy holding a phone. He lets out a creepy smile as he realizes that another victim has fallen into his trap. The sun shines brightly overhead as a man frantically tries to defend his daughter against a group of minions. He only has a baseball bat which he uses to try to scare the monsters away. Soon he realizes that he can't hold them off, so he screams for help. However, none of the other players come to his aid, and they continue to watch him from the safety of the surrounding houses. As the minions get closer to the man, one of them gets stabbed by a dagger. Suddenly an undead orc shows up and starts hitting them with its axe. The man watches in confusion as Sungwoo's undead army comes to his aid at the last second. He holds his hand out for the man and tells him that he is safe now. The man tells him in a trembling voice that his house is nearby, but they ran out of food. The MC opens up his bag and gives him a few cans of food. He knows that it won't be enough, but that's all he has for now. The minions try to escape as the skeleton army overwhelms them. As the group chases them to some stairs, they come across a dungeon sign. Hanho asks the MC if they should go down and finish the minions. Before they can walk any further, the man stops them and warns them from going into the basement. He reveals that there is something even more terrifying than those green minions down in the basement. Sungwoo looks at the man with a smile and thanks him for the warning. After going down the stairs, they receive a notification telling them that they have entered the Elder Slime's shrine. As the group heads further into the basement, they come across a dead minion with slime covering its head. An undead orc swiftly uses its axe to destroy the slime. It gives them 140 gold for each kill. Hanho holds his melting dagger as he complains that the slime can even dissolve metal. The MC tells him that it can't dissolve bones, which makes his skeletons their natural predator. Hanho then hears a noise and turns around to see a giant slime monster. The monster destroys one of the skeleton minions with a single attack. Sungwoo realizes that the slime can also crush and chew the opponent if it can't dissolve them. Moreover, all the attacks of his skeletons are useless due to the size and density of the slime. He quickly thinks of a plan and starts creating bone weapons. Instead of creating more skeletons, the MC starts creating weapons from the bones and throwing them at the slime from a distance. Jisoo tosses a skeleton towards him and he turns it into another basic weapon. As he is busy creating weapons, the slime goes in for a hit and attacks him from the front. The MC uses one of his orc warriors as a shield and blocks the attack. The slime swallows the minions and destroys them. Upon seeing this, the MC smiles and says that the boss has just made a mistake, since the skeleton it swallowed contained a bag filled with bones. He then uses his weapon creation skill to convert all of those bones into weapons, causing the slime to be torn apart from the inside. The skeletons swiftly get into action and start smashing the slime into even smaller pieces so it can't regenerate. The one-armed skeleton delivers the final blow as usual, and they receive 2255 gold for killing the slime boss. Sungwoo orders the skeletons to collect the slime in an empty glass bottle since they might need the acid later on. While collecting the mucus, one of the skeletons comes across the core of the slime monster. It can be used for dissolving or fusing objects together. The MC picks it up using a cloth and wonders if it's a compound ingredient. Hanho calls him out and asks him to read the comments on that online post. The post has a lot of deleted comments. Other players have also reached out to the original poster asking about the deleted comments, but they just ask them to ignore them. Someone mentions the comment of the first person who was trying to get in contact with the group and asks if they have made it, but player 4884 tells them that they have not arrived yet. They claim that something must have happened to them on their way. Hanho finds it suspicious that they are deleting all the comments. Seungwoo thinks to himself that the group first selflessly spent 1,000 gold on the post, and they continue spending more gold with the comments. He knows that there is something weird going on. We cut to an underground parking area where a bunch of guys are hanging around. One of them wonders why the players are even hunting monsters, since killing other players is a lot more profitable. A single kill can give them 500 gold for a normal person, and more than 1,000 gold for a player depending on their level. The other guy laughs and tells him that it is easier to kill players. Moreover, they also enjoy it. Two of the other guys sit in the car. One of them asks the other about their boss, but the guy looks to be out of his mind. He grabs his head as if it's about to explode and screams out the name of Professor Red. The other guy is a bit scared and asks him if he is talking about the serial killer. The tweaking guy starts having a flashback in which he is getting attacked by a monster. The monster turns out to be a vampire. He stares at the man with his sharp teeth and tells him that he has a need for people like him. At the same time, the MC takes out his sword and asks Hanho if he can ever kill another person. After getting bitten by the vampire, the man became a low-rank vampire. He wonders how things ended up this way. He just came to the convenience store with his other gang members to loot some stuff. However, the monster bit him and turned him into a vampire. After becoming a vampire, he started killing all of his gang members. The vampire watched with a smile as he killed them all one by one. The boss continued drinking blood from the dead guys on the floor. He no longer felt like a human. The vampire looked at him and told him to continue feeding and growing till they both met again. The boss finally comes out of his flashback as the guy sitting with him shouts at him. Another guy walks to the car window and asks him if there is a problem. He looks at the man and tells him that everything is fine. He then asks him what he wants to tell him. The guy shows him his phone and tells him that their prey has just arrived. Their post has got another comment from player 157 who says that he is with two other people. His group wants to meet them and calls them to the park. After hearing this, the boss immediately orders the guy to head for the park. With an evil smile, he thinks to himself how the open space of the apartment complex makes it easy for them to lure idiots like the person they just talked to. None of the apartment residents dare to say anything about it since they are all scared. The boss is planning on killing all of them once they run out of prey. The man driving presses the brakes as he notices the group standing in front of them on the road. They all are facing away from the car and wearing hoods, so the two of them can't really see their faces. The boss can't control himself as he sees the group. He screams at the guy to just run them over with the car. The guy obeys the order and slams into the group at full speed. However, upon hitting them, all they see are bones flying in the air. It turns out that there weren't any people in those hoods but skeletons. Seungwoo uses the bones from those skeletons to create spikes and hit the car. The driver loses control and the car crashes. The boss doesn't understand what is going on. Someone suddenly breaks the car window and drags him out. After throwing him to the ground, the MC grabs his phone and asks him if he is the person who made the post. With a sword pointed at his head, the boss doesn't know what to say. The MC was a bit suspicious when he saw those deleted comments. He thought about it and came to the conclusion that these guys must be getting something out of it. They decided to set a bait, but he wasn't expecting them to just run them over with the car. The boss guy looks at Seungwoo and furiously asks him if he even knows who they are. Without saying anything, our boy kicks the man in his face as one of his lackeys watches. He then asks him with a cold expression about the number of people he has upstairs. He threatens to rip off his head if he doesn't answer. Hearing this, the guy starts laughing. He goes in for an attack and asks the MC if he has even killed a person before. Out of nowhere, Righty shows up and slashes his arm with his sword. The man screams in pain as he bleeds all over the place. Seungwoo looks at him with disgust and tells him that even with the current state of the world, he isn't heartless enough to kill a person without hesitation. However, his skeletons are different. As one of the orc skeletons raises its axe to finish the guy, he starts laughing. The MC wonders if the guy has gone insane because of the pain. He turns towards the other guy and asks him if they should start by cutting off his legs or arms. The guy isn't about this life, so he quickly tells them that there are 8 people upstairs. Before he can speak any further, the boss guy kills him using his sharp claws. Hanho and Jisoo stare at him in disbelief as they witness him killing one of his own allies. His ripped-off arm has now been transformed into a pointed blade. He rips out the guy's head and starts drinking his blood. This allows him to heal back and also increase his stats. The man used to be in a 3-star ninja class, but after the boss bit his neck, his class changed to a low-rank vampire. In this class, you can't really level up, but you can absorb the stats of players that you kill. The man stands up and roars in anger, activating his berserk mode. This causes all his stats to increase by 20%. The MC realizes that there is a class even more gruesome than his own. The group gets into a defensive position with the skeletons guarding the front. Sungwoo knows that the vampire could take them out with a single blow if they make one wrong move. He orders his army to attack, but the guy turns out to be much faster than he thought, so he has to order the skeletons to get defensive again. The vampire tears through the skeletons and goes straight for the MC. He knows he has to take him out first since he is the one controlling all the undead. Sungwoo barely manages to put his shield up before the guy attacks him with his sharp pointy arm. The vampire immediately gets slashed by Jisoo from behind, which makes him laugh. He changes his target and starts attacking her. As he is trying to hit her, he gets hit by several daggers from the back. He looks back to see Hanho standing there with a smile and 2 daggers in his hands. He starts shooting daggers at the vampire like a machine gun. This makes him even more annoyed and he changes his target. In the blink of an eye, the vampire launches himself towards Hanho, giving him no time to react. However, his attack gets parried at the last moment by Righty. The vampire manages to dodge the blade, but Sungwoo charges at him from behind with his axe. Again, the vampire manages to read the attack and destroys the axe. The MC immediately puts his shield up to protect himself, but the vampire is too strong. He continues dodging their attacks and says that they are too slow. As he is busy targeting Sungwoo, Jisoo shows up from behind and tries hitting him with her blazing sword attack. He sees it coming and gets out of the way. He laughs, telling her that he saw the attack coming from a mile away. Immediately after, Righty jumps on top of him with his sword and slashes right through his left arm. The vampire screams as his entire arm is cut off. Sungwoo realizes that this is his chance and orders all of the skeletons to attack him. At the same time, the goons under the vampire's command enter the scene. This makes him as he tells them that they arrived at the perfect time. However, his men get scared watching him in his current form. While he is looking away, Jisoo hits him with her sword. Righty and the other skeletons also join in, hitting the vampire at the same time. He tries to fight back, but the MC stabs him in the neck with his sword. He asks if he can also regenerate his head and rips it off. He gets 1,000 gold from killing him since he is considered a level 1 player. The MC is horrified to know that you can gain gold from killing players. He looks at the rest of the goons and asks them if that was the reason why they were killing other players. The group starts shaking in fear as the skeletons surround them. The MC walks over to them and tells them to drop their weapons. They all surrender and immediately drop all of their weapons. After questioning them, one of the guys tells him about their big boss. He reveals that they don't know who it is. It's just that their boss followed his orders, but they weren't aware that he could turn into a monster. Sungwoo wonders if the big boss is the one who created those monsters, and if he did, what is his class? This makes him question if there are classes with even more than 5 stars. He asks the guys about the amount of people they have killed so far. After hearing that they have killed over 21 people, he signals his skeletons to finish them off. They beg for him to spare them since they were only following orders, but he shows no mercy. He knows that if they don't kill these guys now, they might end up killing other people later on. Jisoo is a bit taken aback by what she just saw, but she agrees with him. The post now has a new comment from a guy warning Sungwoo's group from meeting the other group since they are a bunch of murderers. The sergeant reads this comment and gets furious as he realizes that there are now people roaming around killing others in addition to the monsters. He then sees another comment saying that user 157, which is the MC's account, killed all of those murderers after setting a trap with his skeletons. While reading this, the sergeant breaks into a smile. She realizes that this is the same group that he met earlier. One of the soldiers informs him that there is a call, but he ignores him, saying that their saviors are doing great things. The scene then shifts to a guy in armor, who looks at the comments and expresses his gratitude for Sungwoo's group, since they are still looking out for others, despite their circumstances. The man then walks out into the bright light and asks his group if they should also start moving. As the MC's group walks down the roads, Hanho informs him of a new post. This post is from a user called the Prosecutor of Yongdong-po. It tells other players that they can comment on this post if they can't afford to make their own posts using 1,000 gold. Jisoo and Sungwoo discuss how people are utilizing the post to comment about their missing family members and talk about synergy effects and monsters. It seems like the post is helping a lot of players who don't have enough gold to make posts. The group finally reaches Hanho's house. He looks at his home with a worried expression and prays that his family is still safe. The MC asks him to calm down and proceed with caution since they don't know the situation around here. They see dead orcs while walking up the stairs, which makes Hanho even more anxious. He starts praying for his parents' safety before he opens the door to his apartment. There is a huge slash mark on the door which scares him. He screams for his mom to open the door. Suddenly the door opens and his parents stand on the other side with worried expressions. After talking to them, he finds out that both of them didn't pick a class card. His dad tells him that the cards didn't quite pique his interest. As they all ate, Sungwoo asked the parents how they managed to stop the orcs. All other apartments had their doors broken down by the orcs, and theirs was the only one that stood. The dad tells them that he used pesticides to keep the orcs out. This shocks everyone, including the MC. The mom proudly tells them that all the orcs ran away when her husband sprayed them with pesticides. Hanho almost spills his drink while listening to this. After dinner, his mother thanks Sungwoo and Jisoo for bringing him back home. She then offers them some green tea since they don't have anything else at home. Hanho tells her that he also helped them out by throwing daggers, but his mom ignores him. As they all are resting inside the house, some kids on bikes look at the lights and let out an evil smirk. Jisoo is the first one to come out of the shower. The mom thinks that she has a frail body and starts to feel bad for her. Meanwhile, Hanho thinks to himself that she is 30 times stronger than him. The MC feels relieved as he finally goes to take a shower. He is glad that both of his friends' parents are fine. His dad was able to utilize the orcs' strong sense of smell against them. Otherwise, both of them would have ended up like the rest of the players. Even with the world going to hell, there was still something positive. After showering, the group begins cleaning their weapons. Hanho asks the MC about his thoughts since they can't stay at this place forever. He tells him that they should first decide where they want to go and then move out. Sungwoo thinks to himself that the orcs that first arrived were probably scouts. If there is a group of them nearby, it might actually turn into a large-scale battle. Their problem is to find out where to go since they don't have a clear objective in mind. As he is thinking, Hanho puts his phone up and screams at him to take a look. He tells him that the guy who posted to allow other players to comment has just made another post. In this post, the player claims that they have set up a safety zone inside Yeongdeungpo Station with the help of his 3-star class friend. However, in order to maintain the zone, they need gold or rations. Jisoo looks at the post and asks if they can trust the person. Hanho thinks that the guy genuinely has other people's best interests at heart. On the other hand, Sungwoo is still unsure about this guy. He tells them that he now knows why he made that other post yesterday. Even though they might not be lying about the safety zone, they still spent 1,000 gold to open a new message board for survivors, so it seems unlikely that they are doing all this out of the goodness of their hearts. He tells them to look at the comments, which are filled with praises for the player. Sungwoo thinks that he did this just to gain a favorable reputation among the players. It seems like they are going to form a huge group soon. If that happens, they won't need to do anything, and all the resources they need will simply walk to them. Hanho can't believe that the guy did all of this for his own benefit. The MC tells him that he might be overthinking, but the station is too far for them to travel, so they can't really find out. Hanho finds a comment from Chief Gu claiming to have another safe zone at the Hwashong Fortress. He mentions in the comment that he requires rent. The MC doesn't really like the rent part, but he is curious about the safe zone. He asks his friend about the distance of the fortress from their current location. Hanho tells him that it takes about 20 minutes by bus. Hearing that it is not too far, the MC decides to make it their next destination. As they all get ready to leave, the MC apologizes to the parents for suddenly asking them to come with them. The dad smiles and tells him that it's fine. He has safely brought back his son, so he is happy to follow his lead. Hanho's mother tells him that apart from monsters, there are also bandits running around in the neighborhood. The MC is a bit confused hearing this, so he asks them what they mean. The dad explains that they are just a bunch of high school kids who go around on motorcycles and steal stuff from people. Sungwoo sighs as he realizes that he now has to deal with such petty criminals too. Suddenly they hear the sound of a bike approaching. As they all look back, they see a group of teenagers trying to look tough. They stop in front of them and demand that they hand over all the goods that they have. The kids even threaten them with their numbers and baseball bats. The MC looks at them with a smile and asks them if they truly have the greater numbers. Behind him, several glowing eyes start to appear. The kids suddenly turn around and leave before he can say anything else. This leaves the group confused since they don't know what scared the kids. The MC looks back with a worried expression and sees a pack of giant wolves standing there, staring directly at them. The wolves are not attacking them instantly, so he suggests that they start backing away slowly. He doesn't want to engage in close combat with monsters that have 4 legs. Even if he doesn't take their sharp claws and fangs into account, their balance is just too good. If someone from his group fell to the ground, they wouldn't be able to make it out alive. The group slowly walks back into the apartment building. Hanho asks the MC if they are safe inside. However, with the wolves still staring at them, he knows that they can just break into the place and drag them out. As he is thinking of his next plan, one of the wolves charges towards them and slams into the front wall. Sungwoo suddenly throws the acid bottle towards the wolf, which causes it to burn. While the wolf is still in pain, the MC orders his skeletons to start throwing their spears at it. The only advantage they have over the wolves is that they can throw stuff. As another wolf tries to get inside, the MC orders one of his orc skeletons to rush at him. The wolf easily destroys the skeleton by biting its head, but suddenly the green acid starts coming out of its mouth. The MC laughs as he reveals that the skeleton is carrying that slime mucus. To seal the deal, Righty jumps from the first floor of the building and stabs the wolf right in the head. The MC gains 240 gold for killing the wolf. The other wolf is terrified as it sees the skeletons approaching it with their spears. It doesn't take long for them to kill all the remaining wolves. Sungwoo gains some experience and reaches level 7. Jisoo looks down and tells him that they just feel more and more like a burden to him. The MC tells her that it's not true since the situation just wasn't favorable for them. He looks at her and thinks to himself that even though her class is Tiger Hunter, he should see her as a specialized class since she is only focused on increasing her physical strength. On the other hand, Hanho doesn't seem to be getting any stronger. He tries to take the wolf under his control, but it doesn't work since his level is still too low. He suggests that they keep moving since there may be more monsters nearby. Somewhere else, a military helicopter is being chased by flying dragons. The captain screams at the pilot to go faster, but the pilot tells him that they are flying at their maximum speed. He hurls insults at Sergeant Kim for not describing these dragons in more detail in his report. The pilot reminds him that he was the one who disregarded his reports since he was only a sergeant. Suddenly, a notification pops up that the field boss Wyvern has appeared. The dragon grabs the helicopter by its claws and destroys it like it's nothing. It then lands on top of a huge building and lets out a loud roar. Sungwoo and the group witness this, and they are terrified. Hanho thought that the military helicopter might be able to do something against the monsters, but he was wrong. His dad notices that the dragons are planning to sleep on top of the building. They are too close to the safe zone, but they can't move while that thing is still around. Sungwoo tells them that they will eventually leave and suggests that they take some rest. At night, the dragons fall asleep on the buildings while the group rests on the ground. Suddenly, the MC notices a flash followed by a system notification similar to the one they saw at the start of this apocalypse. It is the second phase of card selection. Hanho screams at his parents and tells them not to make the same mistake as him by picking a low-star card. His dad assures him that he won't make any mistakes since he has been playing cards for 20 years. As Sungwoo looks around to analyze the cards, he notices that only 15 seconds remain. Since he has already picked a card, this card will act as a secondary class card in addition to his current class. One of the cards suddenly disappears in front of his eyes. He realizes that other people are also picking up the cards. Hanho carefully looks at the card trying to find one with the most amount of stars. The MC knows that he can't just pick his secondary class based on stars since he needs to find something that he can use in combination with his current class. He finally comes across a card that fulfills his needs perfectly and instantly chooses it. He chose a 3-star link card for the Dark Mage class. A system notification tells him that this card will be combined with his current class card to grant him new skills. He looks at his still and is pretty happy with his choice, since they all fit perfectly with his Necromancer class. Meanwhile, Hanho is crying since he accidentally picked up a 1-star priest card. The new skill he got allowed him to be shielded from enemy attacks for 10 seconds after killing an enemy. As he is crying, he hears his dad asking him if he chose the right card. He looks up to see his card with a 3-star Pioneer class card that allows him to create safe zones. Sungwoo gets excited as he sees this, since they don't have to go to the fortress anymore. As Hanho's dad continues flexing on him, he asks his mom what class she picked. She tells him that she picked the 1-star chef class card. Hearing this, he says that she should have picked a class that was useful in battle. While all this is going on in the background, Sungwoo looks at Jisoo and asks her about her card. She tells him that she picked the 3-star Hitman card. It gives her a supreme sense of passive skill that heightens her senses whenever she is in danger. She realizes that the MC has grown quite strong. He can efficiently employ tactics in battle and make level-headed decisions even in stressful situations. Jisoo thinks that she can never be like him no matter how hard she tries. However, she also needs to be stronger, so she decides to find her own way if she can't be like him. She knows that she must grow stronger in both her mind and her body. The MC calls out the dad and asks him to explain his skill in more detail. The Pioneer class allows him to create a Pioneer's Camp. It costs 10 mana every 10 minutes and allows players to take shelter from monster attacks. The shelter has a limited area and can also be destroyed by powerful attacks. Once the player loses all their mana, the safe zone will start costing 100 gold every 10 minutes. Sungwoo realizes that it will be difficult for them to maintain a safe zone in their current position. Moreover, Gathering a large group for the zone didn't seem like a good idea either. He suggests that they only use that skill during emergencies. They also need to find a good place for the zone. Hanho asks him if they won't be going to the fortress anymore. The MC takes a look outside and tells him that it won't be necessary anymore. He believes that all the existing groups will try to abuse their power, so it is better for them not to meet them. As he looks out the window, he notices the dragon moving. The dragons finally fly off and they can leave the building. The MC asks Hanho to look for the location of the stores in the forum. Sungwoo currently has over 24k gold. He knows that he has to spend this gold in order to get stronger, since they never know when they might run into those high-level monsters again. Hanho still can't find the location of the stores after going through the entire forum. Suddenly the group hears the sound of motorcycle engines. The kids are out again now that the dragons have left. Hanho tells the MC that it's probably those kids they ran into yesterday. He smiles and says that they should ask the kids about the stores, since they are always going around stealing gold from people. They must also have a place to spend it. The kids talk about the store as they walk. They were unlucky last time, but they are hopeful to get good items in their next try. 90% of gamblers quit before hitting it big. The kids finally make it back to their hideout, but it looks empty. They quietly unlock a room to see all their friends hiding. The kid asks them about Yujin, who seems to be missing. The kid starts crying and tells him that the man came again and took Yujin since she didn't collect enough money. Yujin suddenly enters the room and tells him to shut up. The guy asks her if she is okay, but his expressions completely change as he looks at her face. She looks like a vampire. He walks past her into the room of their boss. The boss calls him by the name Tai Xiong and asks him why he killed Wusuk. He says that the man was loyal to their cause and also their leader. The kid tells him he attacked them first, so they had no choice. The boss asks him if he will kill Yujin too. He stands up and tells him that if vampires refrain from drinking blood, they start losing their sanity. Tai Xiong hesitantly asks him if he even knew how many people Wusuk killed. This seems to enrage the man, and he asks him if he was talking back to him. He reminds him that their boss has generously allowed them to work for him. They won't last long if they defy their orders. Tai Xiong starts walking away and tells the man that he will figure it all out. However, the man isn't done with him. He stops him and tells him that if he doesn't gather 10,000 gold in 2 days, he will be the next one to die. While this is going on, he starts hearing voices outside the room. Sungwoo and the group have entered their hideout. The MC complains about their customer service. The boss thinks that he wants to buy something, so he asks him what he wants. He points his sword towards him and orders him to hand over everything he has. The vampire guy starts laughing and tells them that they have no idea what they have walked into. When Sungwoo notices his fangs, he asks the guy if he is the boss of the gang in the apartment. The boss gets angry as he realizes that they are the ones who killed all his gang members. He furiously charges at them, but the orc skeleton grabs him by his arms. The MC puts his sword on the vampire's neck and asks him if he can regenerate his head. The 2 orc skeletons grab the vampire as Sungwoo pushes his sword halfway through his neck. He threatens to kill him if he moves even a bit. He then asks him if he is the vampire lord. Hearing this, the vampire starts laughing. He immediately breaks free and destroys the sword. The vampire tries going for the MC but gets hit by several daggers. It's almost like the MC can read his next move. Before the vampire can move, Jisoo rushes in and slashes one of his arms off. He cries in pain as blood gushes from his arm. He can't even regenerate his arm properly since due to the fire effect of her attack. Jisoo goes in for another attack with fire blazing from her sword. However, this time he manages to move to the side. At the same time, she ducks and slashes him again. This makes him furious and he starts attacking her. It seems like she can keep up with the speed of the vampire. While they fight, he grabs her sword and tries to attack her, but she senses it due to her new skill and easily dodges it. The vampire gets attacked from the back by the orc skeletons. Thanks to the MC's new skill, they are under the effect of Death's aura, which makes them much stronger. This aura also makes the enemies weak. Sungwoo thinks to himself that all of his undead soldiers would have collapsed when facing the vampire previously, but now they are able to hold because of his new skill. The orcs quickly bring the vampire to its knees. With nowhere to run, he cries asking them what they want from him. He looks at the MC and realizes that he is the one controlling the skeletons. He looks weak, so the vampire thinks about taking him out with a single blow. His plan is to get closer to him by pretending to have a conversation and take him out. However, before he can even move, he gets impaled by some bone spears. Sungwoo tells him that he should be able to talk even with those spears running through his chest. He looks at the vampire with a terrifying gaze and asks him if he wants more. Meanwhile, Tai Xiong looks at this in disbelief as he wonders how they managed to kill such a powerful monster. The vampire starts laughing and tells them not to think so highly of themselves just because they managed to beat him. He starts transforming into a terrifying creature and tells them that they will all die once their plan succeeds. Sungwoo has enough of him, so he orders Jisoo to finish him. She immediately slashes his head off and he dies. Taesong looks at this and starts begging for his own life, telling them that he and his friends had nothing to do with this. Sungwoo smiles at him and tells him that he simply wants them to hand over everything that they have stolen. The thieves give away all of their gold, but it's not that much. Jisoo stares at the dead body of the vampire and asks if the boss is the same person that the other vampire was talking about. The MC tells her that whoever it is, he seems to be growing in power. He even has money collectors, so it looks like he is being strategic about all of this. Jisoo can't believe that someone has adapted to the situation even quicker than Sungwoo. It felt like those guys were much more suited for this kind of world than the previous one. The MC knows that more vampires will show up soon since the boss and his subordinates have the ability to turn players into vampires. He wonders if he can just ignore them, but it's not that simple. He needs the help of his entire team to defeat one of them currently. If they grouped up and attacked them, they would have no chance to fight back. He knew that they would have to face the vampires again after what happened today. The MC then looks at the teenagers and asks them about the store. Taesong enthusiastically offers to lead them to the store. The next moment they all freeze as they see a system notification pop up. It talks about players who have not chosen a card despite being given a second chance. This isn't like a usual notification since it is red, and the MC can feel that something bad is about to happen. One of the teenagers starts to scream as he hasn't chosen a card yet. He says that it seemed a bit fishy to him, and he doesn't trust the system. He points to another guy and tells them that he hasn't picked a card either. Another red system notification informs them that those who haven't picked a card yet will be transformed into monsters. Both of the players scream as they start transforming. Sungwoo looks at them transforming, and he instantly knows that they won't be able to fight them if their transformation is complete. He orders everyone to attack them while they are still transforming. Meanwhile, Hanho's parents grow anxious while waiting outside. The mom wonders if it's okay for them to hurt all these thieves. The dad stomps his foot and tells her that the teenagers made a lot of people suffer and even killed some of them, so they deserved everything that was happening to them. Inside the building, the orc skeletons were trying their best to destroy the monsters before they could fully transform. The MC knew that their only option was to kill them during their transformation. Suddenly, one of the wolves attacked the skeletons and broke it in half. The MC couldn't believe that the monster had such overwhelming strength. Righty and the orcs continued hitting the werewolves, and they finally managed to kill them. It gave them 3,000 gold for each kill, and even leveled him up to 8. He stares at the dead bodies in horror as he wonders what kind of terrifying monsters they could be since they gave out a huge amount of gold. He selects a random stats card which increases his speed by 3. He seems pretty satisfied with the outcome of the card. Jisoo tells him that it is beneficial for him to increase his stats since his opponents will try to focus him upon realizing that he is the one controlling all the skeletons. Meanwhile, Hanho is still losing his mind as he wonders if they are going to continue facing such terrifying monsters. Hearing this, the MC tells him that he has a plan of his own. He will try to turn the monsters into his minions. He still hasn't tried it on humans since it might give him a bad name among other players. However, things are different now. There are a lot of other players who still haven't chosen a card. All of them will be transformed into monsters soon, and if he wants to fight them, he needs to stop caring about his reputation. As he turns the skeletons into his minions, he thinks to himself that they might even be able to go toe-to-toe against the vampires. Taesong watches in disbelief as his friend turns into a skeleton soldier for the MC. Sungwoo looks at him with a cold expression and asks him for the location of the store. Taesong explains to him that the store is located in a used car complex, and the people in charge of that place do all kinds of bad things. His group only goes around stealing, but the people there work directly under the vampires and hunt people for them. Hearing this, Sungwoo orders him to take him to those people. They walk into the car complex while surrounded by orcs and werewolf skeletons. The MC knows that something is off since he can't really see any guards in this place. Suddenly they hear a loud noise and he orders everyone to hide. They all watch as a bear monster fights a vampire. The vampire seems to be losing as the bear hits him with his iron chains. Sungwoo notices the chain and wonders if the vampires are holding the monster captive. He soon realizes that it was probably a human that they had kidnapped. They turned into monsters since they couldn't choose a card. When the fight seems to be over, the vampire gets up and rushes at the bear again. The bear is injured, but he slams the vampire back. The MC realizes that this is actually good. If he plays his cards right, he can put the bear monster under his control. As the two of them roar and go back to fighting, the MC orders his werewolf skeletons to attack them. One of them manages to stab the vampire, but the bear fights back. He tries grabbing the werewolf, but the other one comes in and slashes it using its sharp claws. The MC receives 3,500 gold for killing the bear. He has reached his maximum capacity, so he needs to destroy one of his skeletons to put the bear under his control. He destroys one of the orcs and replaces it with a powerful bear. The bear is huge and seems to be the maximum size for a mid-level minion. Suddenly, Hanho notices their school bus parked among the other cars. The group realizes that the vampires have captured the students. Sungwoo realizes that if all the students on the bus were caught, the enemies he would have to face would be staggering. They can't just rush inside either since it can backfire. He looks at Taeshong and asks him about the store. As he tries giving him the direction, someone slaps his hands. He turns around to see his friend Yujin, but she has been transformed into a vampire. The vampire laughs as he hears the name of the girl. He tells him that he hasn't hurt his friends since he considers all of them his own children. He came to see who had been killing all the vampires. Sungwoo realizes that the girl has been possessed, and wonders if the vampire came to him after he felt the other vampires dying. He tells the vampire that it's a bit too chatty for a vampire lord. The vampire starts laughing and tells him that he has a habit of explaining things to idiots. For that, some people even call him the professor, since they probably don't care what he has to say. The vampire tells them that he will get straight to the point. He said that all of them were dead meat. Suddenly he applies a lesser curse on the MC, which requires holy magic to be neutralized. The vampire lord laughs as he prepares to kill the Mac and his friends. However, before he can do anything, he gets kicked in the face by Sungwoo. Hanho sees this and asks him if he is even human anymore. The MC stares at a red mark on his hand and wonders if it has something to do with the curse. Fortunately for him, the mark isn't really doing anything to him. Hanho shows up in his priest outfit and reaches his hand out to him like an angel. The MC looks at him and thinks that the country's standards have really fallen since someone like his friend can become a priest. Hanho holds his hand and tries to remove the curse, but his holy magic isn't strong enough. The curse reveals the MC's location to the vampire lord every 12 hours. The next moment he receives another notification about a quest. It is a special quest, and he has to kill the vampire lord in order to complete it. His rewards include 30,000 gold and a C-rank item ticket. This quest makes things a bit simpler for the MC as he decides to kill the vampire lord before he kills him. He then walks over to Taeshong and asks him about the vampire's lair. The group enters the D-rank item store. This time they have to choose between 4 different balls starting from bronze and ending at platinum. The most expensive ball costs 100,000 gold. The MC decides to go first. He has an unlimited rank ticket, which can allow him to gain access to the platinum ball. However, he decides to spare it for later as he thinks that it will be more beneficial. He is still fully capable of surviving on his own, so it's not like he desperately needs an item. He chooses the gold option and comes across another screen showing him different options for the balls. He thinks back to the last time and realizes that he should pick the first place ball regardless of its price, since it has the highest chance of giving the best item. He lets out an evil smirk and goes all in. Lucky for him, he receives the first place prize. His reward is a coupon that grants him a master-ranked exclusive class skill. His new skill costs 0 mana and allows him to create a safe space for his minions. The minions can just rest and recover in that space until he summons them again. If he summons multiple minions together, it will trigger the curse of death, which will grow stronger with the number of minions. Jisoo and Hanho look at him furiously, as he has all the good stuff. She pushes him away and goes in to try her luck. Meanwhile, Sungwoo tries his new spell and sends his minions to the safe space. It is almost like a giant inventory for him. He can store his minions in the inventory and summon them back whenever he likes. As he excitedly looks back to ask his friends about their new items, he sees both of them in absolute dread. It turns out that Jisoo received a B-rank medkit and some hiking equipment while Hanho got a tough bullhide cuirass. Looking at their condition, he nervously asks them if they should continue moving. At the same time, the vampires are holding all the students captive in their lair. With the dead bodies of all his friends lying around him, Kyungsoo wonders if he should have followed the MC back then. He realizes that he was wrong to take everyone to the military base. When they finally reached the base after carefully evading all the dragons, they found it to be completely destroyed and abandoned. Everyone started asking him what they should do next. A huge panic erupted among the students as they all tried to think of their next move. They all looked at Kyungsoo for his opinion. He got overwhelmed and thought to himself, why was he the one taking responsibility? He simply drove them to the base. One of the students showed him his phone and informed him about the safe zone in the fortress. As everyone stared at him for an answer, he realized that they all survived because of him. He decided to have more trust in himself and led everyone to the fortress. Of course, it was a bad decision. Instead of a safe zone, they were all met with vampires who killed the students without mercy. The surviving students were turned into slaves by the vampires. One of them kicks Kyung-soo and tells him to continue moving. He laughs as he tells him that they can simply eat him if he is feeling too tired. As the vampires talk about eating them up, he stares at them hopelessly. He knows that he will get killed just like the rest of his friends. As the vampires line up all the students, they notice a skeleton standing in front of them. It looks no larger than a minion and is pointing its sword towards them. The vampires laugh as they think that it is just another type of monster. One of them leaps and tries to tear it apart, but he gets impaled by multiple spears. Suddenly, Sungwoo's entire army shows up. Kyung-soo lights up as he realizes that the MC is here to help. When he walks in front of him, he realizes that he looks a lot stronger than he did last time. He wonders why there is a huge gap between them when both of them are just college students. The vampires try getting up and prepare for another attack, but one of them instantly gets mutilated by the skeleton bear. The MC confidently stands among his army as he orders them to kill all of the vampires except one since he wants to interrogate them. Kyung-soo stares at the group in disbelief as he realizes that they are a lot stronger than he thought. It wasn't just the MC, Jisoo also looked much better now. The last remaining vampire begs for mercy as the orc skeletons hold him in place. Sungwoo asks him about the number of players and vampires inside the building along with their levels. The vampire tells him that there is only the area manager who is at level 5. As for the players, there are 12 in total, and the highest level among them is 4. The MC thanks that vampire for his honesty, but he has no intention of letting him live. The vampire frantically tells him that he also knows about the security of the building and the situation inside, but he instantly gets stabbed by Kyung-soo. He looks up and tells them that he knows what is going on inside the factory building. He starts crying and tells them that they can't let any of the vampires live. Even though his friends were cowardly, they didn't deserve to die like that. Sungwoo pats him on the shoulder and tells him that he has done well surviving so far. The vampires they see around them don't just turn into killers overnight. They hide among ordinary people, and all they need is the opportunity to get out. He says that the world they previously knew might have ended, but they can't just let people like that roam around freely. As they sort out the kidnapped players, one of the guys asks the area manager, how long is he planning on doing this? The area manager smiles as he tells him that these people are just a source of food and experience for him. They are much easier to catch than monsters, and they are also more useful. He says that their CEO has an incredible insight and vision. The guy gets excited upon hearing this, and tells the area manager that he also wants to become a part of their vision. The vampire tells him that he can also become a regular member if he continues to work hard. He also started as a lowly warehouse worker, and eventually became a permanent employee. While he was talking, he heard someone mocking him. He turns back to see the MC standing there all by himself. Sungwoo laughs as he tells him that they were just calling their abandonment of humanity innovative. The manager asks him who he is, and starts walking towards him along with his crew. The students in the cages recognize the MC and are relieved to see him. The vampire screams as he hears them talking and reminds them that they are just food. Sungwoo gives him a cold look and asks him if his CEO didn't tell him who he was. The vampire realizes that he was the one who killed Manager Park. The MC laughs as he hears the word manager and asks him if it is some kind of white-collar make-believe. Seeing him walking into the factory alone, the manager knows that he is reckless, but he still doesn't think that he can take all of them on by himself. Sungwoo smiles and tells him that he can take them all on using his skills. Suddenly, black smoke starts spreading through the entire floor. The workers panic as they see a notification telling them that the Great Spirit has been activated. One after the other, skeleton minions appear out of the smoke. With these minions spawning, the Curse of Death effect also triggers and decreases the stats of all the employees. The vampire finally realizes what it feels like to meet someone terrifying. They start to crumble as the skeleton minions go after them. The manager tries to calm them down, but to no avail. As the vampires kill one minion, it is instantly revived. The manager starts to grow furious and kicks one of the orc minions to pieces. He tries going after the MC since he knows that he is the one controlling all the minions. However, before he can make his move, he gets hit in the head by an acid bottle. Hanho stands at the first floor window and has a clear shot of the vampire. As the vampire falls down, Jisoo rescues all the hostages. At the same time, Kyung-soo crashes his bus into the factory wall and calls all the hostages to get inside. The vampire tries to go after them, but he doesn't realize that Righty is coming for him while riding a wolf. As the werewolf skeleton throws him to the ground, Righty jumps into the air and moves in for the final blow. Thanks to Sungwoo's insane buffs and debuffs, the vampire stands no chance. The MC tells the vampire that the abandoned factory they chose for their operations is one of the easiest targets for a raid. The vampire starts to get worried as he realizes that in addition to being strong, the MC is also smart. As he is bleeding from one of his arms, he hears the voice of their CEO offering him some of his strength to get rid of the MC. Sungwoo stares at the vampire in confusion as he starts to grow bigger and even more like a feral monster. He gets a notification that a high-level vampire has gone berserk. Looking at his completely changed appearance, he asks him if this is his true form. The vampire lunges at them with anger and starts attacking the skeletons. The MC orders them all to fight back, but the vampire manages to hold them off by himself. He moves quickly while destroying the skeletons. He notices Jisoo for a split second as she jumps over him and slashes him on his back with her sword. As he turns back, she grabs Righty and throws it at the vampire. Righty slashes through the vampire as he moves in the air. At the same time, another orc tries to hit him, but the vampire destroys it into pieces. As the vampire destroys his minions, the MC immediately revives them. Hanho is impressed that Jisoo is able to hold him off on her own. The MC looks a bit worried and says that it's not good for them. He knows that the vampire doesn't really have much time left before he collapses since he has lost a lot of blood and is also in a berserk state. However, he can also run out of mana before that happens. If his orcs stop defending the front line, he will be in trouble. Still, his biggest worry is that the vampire is only a subordinate of the actual boss. Sungwoo wonders just how powerful the actual vampire lord is. As the MC is reviving his minions, he notices the corpse of a werewolf monster. He smiles and apologizes to the vampire for taking control of one of his captured monsters. With an additional werewolf in the team, all the minions gain a new synergy buff. The vampire gets confused as he realizes that the skeletons have suddenly become a lot more powerful. He orders his werewolves to rip the vampire into pieces. They obey his command and start eating him up alive. Sungwoo stares him in the eyes and asks him to inform his boss that his little business in Hwaseong is now bankrupt. He receives 10,000 gold for killing the vampire, but the system labels him as a player. The MC thinks to himself that he might be able to convert the vampire corpse into his minion. He previously killed the vampires by cutting off their heads so that they couldn't regenerate. However, this one still had his head intact, which meant that he could convert him into his minion. He revives the corpse as a vampire skeleton and tells him that he will be working for him now instead of that vampire lord. The MC suddenly gets a notification informing him that he can access the memory of the corpses under his control. He wonders what it is and looks at the memory of the vampire. He wasn't able to see the memories of any of his minions, so it makes him think if this is one of his new skills. He sees all the vampires having a meeting with the vampire lord as he drinks a huge glass of blood. He asks them about the purpose of the game. When none of them answers, he tells them that their main aim is to evolve. It didn't matter if the game was created by a god or a being from outer space. What actually mattered was that they finally had an opportunity. They could get rid of their fragile self and give birth to a new species. The vampire lord expresses his aim to create a new world order. Sungwoo looks at him in anger as he realizes that he is the vampire lord. The vampire lord tells everyone that he has received a new quest and they are all obligated to help him. Everyone immediately agrees upon hearing this. The MC wonders if they got brainwashed after getting bitten since they showed an instinctive loyalty to the vampire lord. He then tells everyone about a party he will be hosting in Hwaseong. He orders them to invite as many people to the neighborhood as they can and have a little fun. He instructs manager Kim to take care of food and farming supplies. The MC realizes that they are actually setting up human farms and slaughter parties. Their main plan is to lure people in by giving them a false sense of hope in the form of safety zones. Moments later, the MC receives an exclusive quest. He remembers getting a similar quest when he witnessed the death of his professor. This quest revolves around the massacre party being organized by the vampire lord. Sungwoo can either choose to prevent the massacre or take advantage of it by using the corpses. The action he chooses will determine his destiny. Hanho tries to wake the MC, but it seems like he is still stuck in the vampire's memory fragment. He starts crying as he thinks that something has happened to Sungwoo after taking control of the vampire. When the MC finally comes to his senses, he dramatically puts his hand on Hanho's head and asks him who he was accused of messing up. This makes Hanho a bit scared. Sungwoo lets him go and reminds him that he promised to do anything he said. He smiles and says that he wants him to do a quest with him. Meanwhile, the vampire lord is frustrated that the MC killed his vampire manager, even after receiving some of the vampire lord's strength. Madame Yang nervously asks if Sungwoo might disrupt his plans, but the vampire lord dismisses this idea, saying that his weak skeletons are no threat. After the upcoming Great Feast, he plans to track down and eliminate him with a curse. Outside the factory, everyone is busy collecting daggers and other weapons from the vampires. Hanho asks the MC if it's okay for them to be doing this. Sungwoo asks him what he means. Jisoo reminds him what he told them earlier and says that a huge massacre is about to happen in Hwashong Fortress. She asks him if they should hurry and focus on stopping the vampires. At the same time, Hanho urgently informs the MC that something big is happening online. It seems like vampires are trying to attract players by promising safety and free entry to their camp. A post from someone named Manager Gu aims to lure survivors. Hanho considers posting a warning, but the MC stops him. They don't know if their warning will help stop people who are looking to latch on even the slightest bit of hope. Moreover, if the vampires are forced to change their plans, he will lose all of his advantage since he already knows what they are planning to do. They have no way to stop them at the moment, so they should instead use that time to finish their preparations. He then asks Jisoo if she found anything useful. She tells him that she has found useful potions in Vampire Manager Kim's warehouse. Hanho finds a wireless charging battery that they use to recharge their phones. Jisoo also finds a white potion called Treatment, which cures infections. Sungwoo immediately uses it on Taeshong's friend, partially restoring her to normal. Taesong and his friends thank him deeply. The MC knows that the girl has been having a tough time until now. Even though the potion didn't heal her completely, it was still pretty effective. He turns to Taeshong and warns him to watch over his friend in case the vampire lord possesses her again. He says that he will have to kill her if that happens. With a determined expression, the guy tells him that he won't let it happen. The MC makes a confused face as he wonders if he is saying that they will try to stop him if he comes after their friend. He knows that they are criminals, but they aren't bad people, so he sets them free. However, he tells them that he might them later on. Sungwoo then asks Hanho's dad, Mr. Lee, to use his skill, which create a safe zone around the factory. Recovery is greatly enhanced inside the zone, and Mr. Lee has full control over this space. Everyone feels better as their injuries heal. Since Hanho's mom has the chef class, she can cook food that grants buffs to everyone. Jisoo looks at all the players and says that the people are finally adapting to the situation. Sungwoo asks her if she also has an exclusive quest. She acts confused and tells him that she didn't. It turns out that he is the only one with an exclusive quest. He tells Jisoo Yun she doesn't have to join him. She tells him that she wants to go. He asks her if she is doing this because of her sense of justice, but she says no. She tells him that she can't just keep running from the monsters forever. She will get killed sooner or later if she continues on this path. Therefore, she wants to fight in order to survive. As they talk, a notification appears, revealing that all survivors are now in Chapter 1 of the game. The admin congratulates those who have made it this far, acknowledging the many lives lost and explaining that those unable to adapt have turned into werbeasts. The real challenges are just beginning, as survivors must now fight both monsters and other humans. Only the bold will survive. The message includes 4 key warnings. The event will last 7 days, and no one can leave the Suwon and Hwashong Fortress areas during this time. Players will earn double the gold. Each second-round player who defeats a werebeast has a chance to receive a random combo card. Lastly, a boss monster will appear in each region, with powerful items as rewards for defeating them. These items cannot be found in shops. Sungwoo looks at the screen and realizes that they can't go to other regions anymore. Jisoo stands there with a determined expression and tells him that they must stay here and fight instead of running away. Hanho feels frustrated since Sungwoo is forcing him to join his dangerous quest. The MC tells him that Jisoo has been with them from the start, even though she is fully capable of surviving on her own on the other hand. He's too weak to survive even a day alone. Changing the subject, Hanho mentions that people are responding to his recent post on the community forum. Most of the comments are varied, but one stands out from the prosecutor of Yeongdeung-po, a person who created a safe base with a level 3 pioneer skill and formed a guild called Independence. This guild's top goal is the survival of the group, and they plan to establish a safety zone for survivors. The MC doesn't think that the guy expected him to join the guild after watching his post. He simply wants to show others that they are not acting in bad faith. Hanho can't believe that the guy can think that far. Sungwoo tells him that some of the more ambitious people are starting to come forward. His friend then asks him where they are going. He tells him that they are going to level up and asks him about his level. Hanho admits he's only level 5, which the MC finds weak. Just then, Kyungsoo stops the car and announces that they've arrived at their destination. As they step out, Hanho asks the MC if this is the place where he wants to take them. He tells him that he is right and declares this area as their new hunting ground. It seems to be full of monsters hiding behind cars and debris. Suddenly, a giant fiery rock flies at the group. They barely manage to dodge it by hiding behind cars. These little monsters can use magic, but they are still no match for Sungwoo's skeleton army. As Jisoo and his skeletons finish the monsters, the MC explains that they are called kobolds. The main goal here is to help Hanho level up and find potential new minions for the MC. His best bet is to find people who have been turned into monsters, since it will increase his power significantly. Unfortunately, these kobolds aren't strong enough to be useful as minions. He already has his werewolves with him who can easily take down multiple low-level vampires. Jisoo calls out to the MC and tells him to look at the grocery store. The entire parking lot is filled with bodies, reminding her of their old college campus. The MC realizes that this may have been the place where one of the tutorials took place. She asks him if he thinks that there are survivors inside the store. The MC tells her that crowded places can attract a lot of monsters, which means that the chances of any survivors are pretty low. Hearing this, Kyungsoo guesses that rural areas or small villages, like Jeju Island, could be safer due to their low population. This makes Jisoo a bit relieved since her own family lives on that island. She notices Sungwoo's gaze and tells him that there is no need to worry. She didn't expect to see her family anyway. Moreover, she knows that they are probably doing fine since they are a bunch of big shots. The MC realizes that she has a difficult relationship with her family, so he decides not to ask her any further questions about it. As they enter a mart, the entrance gets sealed with magic. This transforms the place into a large-scale dungeon called the Sorcerer's Fortress. The only way out is by defeating the dungeon boss. Suddenly, a huge magic circle appears beneath them, teleporting everyone to different spots. Hanho drops down from the ceiling into a group of kobolds who laugh about catching a weak human alone. At first, he thinks that he can handle them, but realizing he's alone, he gets scared. Bro's life expectancy goes from half a day to 30 seconds. The kobolds jump at him, but he accidentally kills one of them. As they furiously attack him, he starts to think that this is the end for him. However, he soon realizes that he isn't taking any damage from their attack. He remembers that his priest class skill protects him for 10 seconds after a kill. The kobolds look at him in confusion as they notice that their attacks aren't working. Hanho stands up with a terrified expression and asks them if they just called him a weakling. Meanwhile, Kyungsoo and Jisoo are together, trying to find the others. They spot blood around a corner, only to discover Hanho standing over a pile of defeated kobolds. Jisoo can't believe what she sees, but he proudly tells her that he's finally unlocked his hidden potential. With the three now reunited, they agree they don't need to worry about Sungwoo since he can handle all the monsters by himself. Just like they expected, the MC and his minions are slaughtering kobolds. He easily finishes them off, but he is a bit worried about his friend. As he goes around looking for the exit, finds a severely injured survivor. He looks to be in a pretty rough state, and it doesn't seem like the potions can help him much. The guy barely manages to lift his finger and points to a box. Sungwoo picks it up for him and asks if there is a potion inside. As he opens the box, he finds a mysterious egg. The item description says that a creature will emerge from the egg with will change his fate. With his final breath, the survivor tells the MC that the dungeon boss holds the token needed to claim this egg. This egg originally belonged to the survivor, but the boss somehow stole its token. The MC is disheartened as he realizes that the survivor is a powerful 5-star dragon knight. He guesses that he probably got lost in the dungeon while looking for the store and all his tokens got taken by the boss monster. It looked like his class could only reach its full potential later on, but the guy didn't make it that far. Even though the item description calls it a mysterious egg, the MC knows that it is a dragon egg. He thinks to himself that the guy probably told him about the egg since he wanted him to finish this game. As he is standing there, more kobolds attack, but his minions easily defeat them. Now, Sungwoo is set on finding the token and taking revenge for the boy who died in front of him. As his minions keep killing the kobolds, he finds it strange that they continue charging at him without fear. It looks like they are simply going at him mindlessly. Suddenly he hears an explosion and spots a kobold sorcerer. Despite its scary look, one of his minions quickly takes it out along with the other kobolds. The MC levels up and decides to go with the skill option since he wants to increase the maximum number of his minions. However, he gains a new skill called Corpse Explosion, which costs 10 mana to blow up a corpse. He immediately gets a chance to test his new skill as more monsters try attacking him. He orders his minions to stay back and uses the skill on one of the corpses, causing a large explosion. The kobolds outside feel a bit scared as they hear the sound of the explosion. Out of nowhere, Righty jumps out of the door and clears them out. The MC praises him, which makes him happy. They then find the dungeon boss surrounded by roots. The boss is a high-level kobold sorcerer protected by a force field that can only be broken by destroying 3 cores scattered throughout the dungeon. The description states that it cannot be harmed by normal attacks. Seeing the force field, the MC realizes why the MC has been sitting here while all of his other guards were fighting. Suddenly, the boss casts a deadly spell that will kill anyone below level 10 in an hour. The MC knows what that means. Everyone in his group is below level 10. The kobolds charging them earlier were just buying time for the spell. He tries using his minions to attack the boss, but they're ineffective against the shield. Thinking strategically, he orders his minions to pile the kobold corpses around the boss, then detonates them all in a huge explosion. But when he returns, the boss is unharmed. Enraged, the boss sacrifices some of its health to speed up the spell, leaving only 52 minutes. Seungwoo starts to get worried since he now has even less time to find the cores. Frustrated, Seungwoo decides to go for the cores since he knows that is the only way to end that curse. Using memory fragments from revived kobolds, he learns where the cores are. Righty quickly destroys the first core out of the 3. He now only has 19 minutes to find the other 2. He continues moving while reviving the monsters and going through their memories. He quickly finds out the location of the next core and starts moving to the first floor. Moving to the next floor, they see dead kobolds. Seungwoo wonders if Jisoo killed them. He then gets a notification about the second core being destroyed and thinks to himself that she must have also seen the notification about the instant death spell. He sees someone fighting monsters in front of him and thinks that it's her. He tells her to look for Hanho and Kyungsoo. To his surprise, the person killing the kobolds turns out to be Hanho himself. He confidently looks at the MC while holding a dead monster and tells him that he is late. Seungwoo sees this and wonders if he is dreaming. At the same time, Jisoo arrives and tells him that she managed to destroy one of the cores. However, the MC is more interested in knowing what happened to Hanho to cause such a drastic change. He acts like a hero and tells them that they don't have any time to waste, so they should just go and find the next core. They now have only 13 minutes left. As they reach the last core, the kobolds defend it desperately. The MC knows that they can't waste their time fighting the monsters, so he asks the group to focus on finding the core. It isn't long before Just finds the core. The time limit has now reached 10 minutes. Seungwoo helps Righty, who leaps over the kobolds and shatters the core. With the force field down, they only have 9 minutes to defeat the boss. The MC is furious at the boss and decides to teach it a lesson when they find it. Hanho goes back to his normal self and says that it should be easier for the MC to kill the boss since he can blow up corpses now. The MC tells him that he already used that spell in front of the boss, so he might be expecting it. Hanho gives him the idea of blowing up the whole building, and it makes him think. He orders everyone to regroup and head for the boss room since they don't have much time left. They reach the boss in time, and a fireball from one of Seungwoo's kobold sorcerers disrupts the instant death spell. The MC looks at the boss in anger and asks if it has anything else up its sleeve. Enraged, the boss transforms into a fallen tree spirit. It lets out a roar and starts attacking the group. It smashes through his minions effortlessly. The boss attempts to strike the group, but they dodge at the last moment. Jisoo uses her fire sword to burn a branch, though it regenerates quickly. The MC tells her to get out of the way and orders his werewolf minion to throw dead kobolds at the boss. He detonates the bodies as they reach closer to the boss, injuring its face. Looking at the smoke, the MC thinks that it was enough to kill the boss, but it appears that the boss has regenerated. Suddenly, a fireball from a kobold sorcerer hits the boss from behind. The group bombards the boss with fire attacks, but even that is not enough since it keeps regenerating. Seungwoo tells them to keep attacking the boss. Suddenly, a notification pops up, telling them that the boss has lost all of its mana and will now be giving away its health. The MC smiles as he reveals that he has been using the Devil's Bloodstone all this time to drain its mana. However, even with its mana depleted, the boss seems to be attacking them. The MC orders everyone to retreat. The boss tries to catch them but falls since it has gotten weak. Before leaving the room, the MC looks back and reveals that he was keeping most of his skeletons on the first floor. As everyone gets to safety, he detonates the pile of dead kobold bodies his minions stacked below the boss. With no mana left to regenerate, the boss dies. For defeating the fallen tree spirit, the MC earns 12,140 gold and levels up to 10. The system also rewards him with a roulette ticket since he's the 69th person to reach level 10. His max number of minions rises by 5, and he now has a new skill, Death Response. It allows him to summon 10 zombies for 10 minutes without affecting his minion count. He realizes that he can now control up to 25 undead. In addition to this, he also has the token of the Dragon Knight. As he raises his sword, he is confident that he can now beat the Vampire Lord. The Dragon Knight's token is actually the Masterless Sword that increases his strength by 6. Though he can't open the dragon egg yet because he isn't a dragon tamer, he learns he can hatch it by keeping it for 5,000 days. He can also reduce that time by killing powerful monsters using that sword. The MC realizes that he will have to wait 13 years to use the dragon egg. Jisoo tells him that it must be the penalty for not having the right class for the sword. Sungwoo tells them that he can prove himself to the sword by killing monsters, which means the more monsters he hunts, the less time it will take for the egg to hatch. However, the sword also gives him strength, so he is quite happy to keep it. Hanho tells him that his phone is ringing. He receives a message from Taeseong, who was sent to Haegung Square to spy on the vampires. He reports that many people are there, but no vampires have appeared yet. The MC is relieved that he is still doing okay. While back at the factory, he ordered him to blend in with the rest of the survivors and keep an eye on the vampires. He also advised him to send him a private message if anything happens. Taesong happily accepted the job since he had been spending time with vampires all along. It seems like he still hasn't seen any vampires in the supposed safe zone. Just then, one of his orc skeletons informs him that they found 2 dead werewolves. The MC wonders if the tree spirit killed them. He revives them and adds them to his army. He now has 5 werewolves and his minion count is at 15. Now that he is fully equipped, the MC decides to head toward Hwaseong to eliminate the vampire.